The Kingdom Business Society Podcast. Kingdom BS. With Steve Holmstrom. Talking God, wealth creation, business, faith, money, and saving the world.
Dyke Rogers, welcome to Kingdom BS. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
What an honor. Thanks for having me in your home in Texas.
It's an honor to have you here.
Oh, this is great. And we awesome yesterday getting a chance to just come down a day early and connect. I've been so looking forward to this podcast. I would call you my first ever oil tycoon, except you're not just into oil. You're into pretty much everything. I'm going to have to read it because I know I'll forget half of it. You're not only into energy companies, you've been into and are still commercial real estate, agricultural properties, medical service providers, hospitality outlets, retail. You're getting deeper and deeper into emerging high-tech technologies. I can't wait to talk about some of those things. You've never been in a tractor, but you farm over 20,000 irrigated acres. It used to be over 30,000, which for those who don't know what 20,000 acres is, I used my calculator. This is over 125 quarters of land. You have way over 100 business ventures that you got your fingers in. I don't even know how you remember everything that you're invested in. It's crazy. I've come to the conclusion that you can't figure out what to do with your life, Dyke.
I want to know what I'm going to do when I finally grow up.
One day you'll find your lane, you know.
That's it.
But I love interviewing business leaders, especially those who have, stewarded a lot for the Lord and for the kingdom. But I've never met anyone who's so diversified and interested in so many different subjects. But I want to ask you, I want to get into each one of those, but just want to take me back to kind of your childhood, because you weren't born into the home of a business leader, were you?
No.
No.
I grew up, everybody my age kind of outpours the person before them. That's just kind of how that works. We grew up really poor.
And you grew up in Texas.
Yeah, but we never knew it. I mean, I had a great childhood.
You didn't know you were poor?
No, not a clue. Everybody around us were too. But I grew up in a time that we were way out in the country, and the Rural Electrification Company, the REAs, weren't there yet. So, I mean, I grew up...
Say that again, the rural what?
Electrification, that called it REA. They're
Okay.
the people who brought electricity to rural America.
Oh, so there was no electricity.
Where I lived, we didn't have electricity until I was about 6 years old.
Wow.
So we actually grew up, as a matter of fact, I didn't even have windows in the house. We had screens.
Okay, well, I have to ask, because someone's wondering, how old are you now?
I'll be 78 in a month.
You're 78 in a month. So you, as a child, no electricity, not even windows.
No, we had screens, but we had plywood that came down and closed the windows, and we'd have a board that would hold the windows up. And so you had a kerosene lamp. It's not that I'm that old. It's just we didn't have electricity. So we had a kerosene lamp, and so you knew when to go to bed, because if the wind was blowing and the dirt was coming in, you'd have to close the windows. You couldn't stay in the house with the kerosene.
Because it would hurt your eyes?
Oh, it would just smoke, and it was terrible. But,
okay.
But we just, we were hoping for no wind, which in West Texas is not the easiest thing to do.
And right
But it
now,
was great.
I should mention this. We are in Dalhart, Texas.
That's correct.
But you were, where was that again?
Kind of
Possum?
in north central Texas,
North central.
southwest of Fort Worth.
Okay. And what did you call it? It was Possum
Kingdom Lake.
Possum Kingdom Lake. Yeah. That's about as redneck as a bowling pin.
That should tell you that we're way out there.
Yeah. So you grew up in a very poor home.
I did, but like I said, we didn't know it.
You didn't know it. What did your dad do for work?
My dad ran a commercial fishing camp. He had worked for the Teamsters Union. He'd worked for the draft board, and he'd run a grocery store, and he decided to come take on running a commercial fishing camp. And so that's what we did. So we lived out, people came out to vacation or fish there.
Okay. So you grow up in, a fairly poor home. How did you end up going into business? Like, give me your life from like age 16 to 25.
Well, I think I had a tip. We moved to Fort Worth, and my dad ran a little industrial cafe. And so every Saturday morning I'd get up and I was working in the cafe. So I understood work.
Yeah.
I always had odd jobs, always like selling raffle tickets or whatever. I was kind of into that. I never was really good at working. I was much better at delegating. And I think that's kind of where.
Your wife said that too.
Yeah, she thinks I'm a very good delegator, maybe to my detriment. But I really didn't understand leadership or business or anything else when I graduated from high school. I was a salutatorian in my high school, but that was
What's
a small
a salutatorian?
School. That's the number 2 student in the.
Oh, okay.
Now the number 1 student was way above where the number 2 student was.
Okay.
But and I wasn't planning on going to college or anything. Nobody in my family really had, and so I was going to the beach in California. That was my plan. And
you're going to go to the beach.
I was going to the beach. Had $100 in an old car that's probably worth about $300.
Yeah.
And I headed to the beach. And I got from Fort Worth to Amarillo, which is about 350 miles or so. And my car broke down.
Your car broke down in Amarillo. That sounds like a song.
When they say Amarillo by morning, it really was. So I had a cousin that lived there, and he put me to work roofing houses. And I knew I didn't want to do that very long, but I just wanted to get enough money to get to the beach. And he said, "You really ought to go to college." And I said, I don't have any money. I don't have any real desire to go to college. He said, "We'll work out the money part." And so he took me down. They had something called the Opportunity Plan that allowed kids who couldn't afford to go to school with either grants or loans or whatever.
And which school is this?
West Texas A&M University.
West Texas A&M.
Yes.
Okay.
It's part of the A&M system. It's a satellite college. Okay. I personally, I think it's the best one in the A&M system, but that's where we are.
Yeah.
It's in Canyon, just south of Amarillo.
And you're still very connected to that university all these years later.
I am today.
Yeah.
Yes. Very connected.
Yeah.
But anyway, they got me in school, and I was there, and I went home Christmas, and my mom said, "Well, how was the beach?"
She didn't even know that you've been to college.
I said, "Well, maybe I should have called you, but in those days it cost money and I didn't have money. So
yeah, you have to have a lot of quarters to make a call back then.
It was kind of that way.
Yeah. So you get back, you tell mom, I went to school, and where do you go from there?
Well, one of the best things that I probably did, I got involved in a fraternity, a social fraternity. There are a lot of things that aren't good in that, but one thing that is good is that I have kind of an interesting story. There were 23 or 24 people in my pledge class, and when we went to elect officers after being in for a year, I got nominated for every single office, and there were like 9. I got beat 9 times. So I didn't feel bad about it because it was different people nominating me, so I didn't have an office, and so we came back to school the following year. And our vice president had left school, and so they had to have a vice president. I was the only guy left, so I took that job as a vice president, and which I would have never been elected to, and then at the semester our president left, and so I became president of our fraternity, and I was probably the youngest person. I was by far the youngest person in my pledge class. And at that time, it was during the Vietnam War, and so we had a lot of older people. I mean, I was 19 or 18, and we had 27, 28-year-old people who were in school to not go to war.
Oh, really?
So you had to manage those people. We had 75 or 80 people in our fraternity. And so I learned a lot about leadership at that particular point. And I think that's what led me into business, because up until that point, I never knew that I could lead anything.
Right.
And by being thrown into the mix, I learned that, I could, and I really thought I pretty much was called to do that.
Wow. So that's how you learned leadership. Well, that was the beginning point.
That was the beginning.
Wow.
That was the beginning. So having to make tough decisions that weren't popular.
What was your first business? How did you get started?
Well, the first thing that I did, I went to work for Southwestern Bell Telephone Company, and they hired 5 people, something called the in-depth program, and it was kind of modeled after
In depth?
in-depth, in-depth.
Okay.
And it was initial, darn if I know what it was. Um, anyway, it was a program that was modeled after the Ford Motor Company Whiz Kit program
Okay.
in the McNamara days, where you pick somebody and you let them just run until they run out of juice, so they either succeed or they fail. And so I was put in at a level to begin with that was equal to somebody who had been there 25 years. And I was measured on the same results that they were, with absolutely green as a gourd, no experience of any kind. And so it's called Figure It Out. And I would say this, the biggest advantage I've ever had in life is that I was born poor. Because if you're
Is that
born,
you were born poor?
yeah, if you're born poor, you figure things out. You have to learn to do that. My kids, unfortunately, have not really ever had to do that, and I think it's a disadvantage. But you learn to figure things out.
Yeah.
And so I went through periods to train myself and took jobs that were lesser than our job in the company so that I could learn those jobs. And I did that for about a year and a half, got promoted 3 times, and life looked really good. And then in
3 promotions in a year and a half?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it could have been continuing. I mean, that's how it was. You either got promoted or you got fired. So you were moving up or not. And then we had a law that came in called the EEOC, which is the Equal Opportunity Employment Act, which said that you need to give an equal opportunity to women, minorities, and so forth. And it was a very justified law. I think it's something that certainly needed to happen. But in our organization, all of the managers were men. There weren't any women at all. And the handwriting was on the wall that from this point forward, there was going to be an equal number of women. And if there was, then my promotion days were done.
Wow.
And at the time, my wife was sick, and so her dad lived here in Dalhart, and she really wanted to come back home, and thought that her health would be better accordingly. And so we moved here to Dalhart, and I went to work for her dad in a Ford Lincoln Mercury dealership, and as an assistant service manager. So when you go from in the phone company, I had about almost 600 people working for me, and I was 20 years old at that point.
Wow.
And a pretty heady kind of thing. And you come back and you become the assistant service manager in a small town dealership. Humility is the first word that comes.
But you're still only 20 years old.
I'm 20 years old, but
most people are thinking, man, that kid's doing good for 20, but you've already led so much.
No, I'm thinking at this point, my life is over. Okay, it is over. And actually, that being over is what led me to the Lord. We haven't really discussed this before, but I was at a point, it was like, Lord, I don't know what you've got me into here. I've left a career that's a corporate, fast track situation.
Yeah.
And I'm back here doing, the grunt work that I never thought I'd be doing. And I just don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, Lord, if you're real, you're going to need to show me. I just was belligerent enough to say, you just have to show me, or I don't know what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And he did. I had a road to Damascus kind of experience. I don't know anybody else that's had that experience in my whole Christian walk. But
what happened?
I was sitting on the bed, and next thing I knew, I was seeing vision, and
you were having a vision.
Yeah, and I have never. I can tell you it's the only vision I've ever had in my life, so it's not a normal thing. I saw the gospel from the beginning to the end. I was not biblical in any way. I wasn't Christian in any way. I'd never really been exposed. I went to a Catholic youth organization because the girls were there, but I had no interest in anything biblical. And I got up the next morning. I was out all night, and I was I was speaking a language to myself that I could not understand.
You have a vision that goes on for hours?
It must have, because I woke up the next morning, or I got up the next morning.
Praying in the Spirit.
Yeah, and with an understanding of where I needed to be, and I said, my instructions were to go get baptized. So I started around town trying to find a place to be baptized.
So you have no Christian background before this?
No.
You go from not barely knowing the Bible, a little Catholic, you see the whole gospel play out in a vision, and you wake up full of the Holy Ghost.
With this, yeah.
I don't
know anybody.
Man, you're spoiled. You got to contend for that. I actually fasted for weeks to get the baptism of the Holy Spirit because I wanted it and I didn't want to fake it. All my friends were faking it. And I'm like, no, I literally, like, that is the easiest baptism I ever heard of.
I had a little problem faking it because I didn't know what it was. It actually just scared me. am I not going to be able to talk again? I mean, it was
really,
it was a scary moment. So I go out and I start looking for somebody to baptize me. So I go from church to church, and they say, "Well, do you want to join the church?" No, I just want to be baptized. We don't baptize here; we sprinkle. Okay, well, I don't think that's it. I need to be baptized. And so I went to this little church, and I said, "I really want to be baptized." And they said, "Well, our baptismal is broken, but let me see if I can't get this done tomorrow. I'll borrow one from another church." And so they had another girl that wanted to be baptized in their church. And so we went to another church, and at 2:00 in the afternoon, I got baptized and kind of came up out of the water, and it was kind of the same experience over again.
Really?
It was an amazing
Holy Ghost all over you.
Yeah, but I think the only reason it happened that way to me is because I'm such a skeptic and I doubt everything.
You would.
And I would not have accepted it if somebody had given it to me, I think, I asked God to show me, and he showed me. And that's been the experience that's lasted for 55, 57 years.
Yeah. Wow. So that's how you came to know the Lord.
That's how I came to know the Lord.
Did you pick that church that baptized you, or did you start going to a church?
I actually didn't go to a church. What we did is we had 5 couples that I did not know, but we had met them, and we were new in town. And we said, "Look, something's happened to me. I really don't know what it is, but I want to find out. Would you like to come on this journey with us, and let's find out?" One of those couples was Christian, 4 were not.
Say that again. One was
Christian, 4 were not.
Wow.
And they said, "Yeah, let's figure this out." And we met a couple of times a week, sometimes 3 times a week for 2-3 hours, and we would study the Bible, and we would pray, and we would see miraculous things. It's that, new Christian, everything comes alive program,
Well, you don't have anyone to train you to be religious. You're just meeting in your living room with some newbies who don't know what they're doing.
None of us
But
did.
you've got the baptism of the Holy Ghost, so you know it's real. You're reading the Bible and talking about it.
And we're believing what it says.
So you started a home church.
We started a home church there, at which, by the way, turned out to be very dangerous because we didn't have any oversight. We didn't have anybody leading us. And so we got into all the carnal stuff, why are you teaching? Because I know as much as you do or more.
Yeah.
So why are you trying to lead? I could be doing this better, that kind of stuff. And we, even though we saw every kind of miracle you could see, we fell apart.
Okay.
In the worst possible way. And even to the point that most fell away from the Lord and then came back. I was away for about 4 years.
But you were seeing miracles in those early
we
days?
were seeing miracles.
Like what kind of miracles?
I saw a guy's foot that we were praying for his foot. He had cerebral palsy, and his foot was like this, and just saw it do that. He couldn't put it back in his boot that was specially made for him. He couldn't put his foot back in, that sort of thing. We saw
in your living room, home church.
In somebody else's living room. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was just one of those examples. And we saw financial miracles. We saw a lot of things. One little financial kind of miracle that came along during that period is we had somebody who was and I had I'd had an issue in our family business, and it didn't go well, and I had left the family
At the
business.
Lincoln dealership.
Yeah, I'd left the family business and had a job that was a fully commissioned job. It was in a real estate business. I wasn't making any money. I worked 11 months. I made $1,183, I think. So it wasn't exactly really lucrative, and I'd accumulated quite a bit of debt because I had 3 kids and another one on the way at that particular time. And I had 25 years I owed on my house and just 48 months on my car, and
You were broke.
a year old. I was broke. we were into eating cereal with water. I mean, it was
For real?
for real.
Because you couldn't afford milk.
We were poor. I mean, we were back to poor. I understood being without.
Cereal with water. That's bad.
So I went down and sold all the gold that I had, which wasn't a lot. I mean, it was my class ring, one of these chains, around your neck that you thought was so cool, those days. And I think another ring. And there was a gold dealer in town. I sold it, and I got $346 for it.
You remember $346.
There's a reason I remember it, but I got $346, and I went home and I'm going, we're gonna eat, it's gonna be good. But I had a home group that next door to my house, and I went to that home group, and one of the couples in our home group was having a real financial hardship, and they were having to leave town. They had to rent a U-Haul, and they didn't have the money to do it. And we said, okay, we'll pass the hat. And when it came to me, there wasn't anything in the hat.
No one had given anything yet.
Not really. And I looked at my wife and I thought, and God basically said, you need to put that in. And I'm going, this is all I got.
You have nothing but $346.
$346. I said, okay. So could I just put in 200? And it was, no, they need the money. And so I took the money out of my pocket. I put it in the whatever was passed around. And I felt like it's the right thing, but I'm thinking, I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow. And so I went home the next day after.
Man, you just feel the knot in your stomach.
Oh, it was.
You think of Jesus, watching that widow put everything she had in that plate, and something about that just absolutely won his heart, and that he got excited about that. I mean, not many times in our lives do we actually have that opportunity where we get that low, where we're giving $346 would actually be everything I have.
Well, frankly, I don't want that opportunity again.
You don't want that again.
I don't want that opportunity, and I hope he doesn't ask.
Okay,
But I went home and I looked in the mailbox, and I had a check from my friend, the IRS.
The next day,
The
IRS sent you money.
The IRS sent me money, a refund for $3,460. Exactly
3460.
exactly 10 times what I dropped in the till.
Whoa.
And I said, God saw me. It was a big moment. And I'm going, we're getting milk.
346. He just put a zero on it.
Yeah.
Not $1 more, not $1 less, tenfold to the penny.
Yeah.
Dear God.
I don't think those are coincidences.
No.
Okay. And that was the first of a number of that type of financial miracle. And I mean, I had smaller ones, I had larger ones.
That would have rattled.
By the way,
as
I'm not
much.
a person who believes God just drops money out of the sky. But I do think he rewards obedience.
Yeah. When you obey. Well, that would have rattled you. Seeing that exactly to the dollar times 10 would have rattled you as much as any other miracle you had seen.
Mm-hmm. But at that time, it was a really big deal.
Wow.
And it wasn't the money. It was that I knew that I'd done what God wanted me to do, and I knew that he saw it.
Yeah.
And rewarded it. And
so where did things go from there? How do you get going in business? Because you were just starting out in real estate at that time?
Just starting out in the real estate, and I sold one thing, and I made $1,183. And accumulated about $40,000 in debt, which now would probably be $125,000,
It was a lot.
$150,000. It was a lot. Things weren't going well, and I had one business I'd tried to sell for a year, and I could not sell it. The guy wanted to buy it, but it was an Exxon distributorship, a fuel distributorship, and Exxon would not approve the guy. He had another brand, and at that time they were single branded, and they would not approve the brand. And so I spent 11 months trying to sell this deal and trying to get Exxon to approve it. So in that 11 months, I spent a lot of time with the guy that was trying to buy it. He was in business already, and I learned a lot about his business. And I learned how it worked and how he priced and everything that you could learn about it. I learned because I didn't have much else to do. And so, and I would say during that year, I drove a lot of miles and I listened to a lot of tapes, and I spent 11 months with the Lord that I've never spent since. Never had that opportunity.
Listening to teaching,
Just listening
to the Bible
teachings for 11 months. And sometimes I'd hope nobody interrupted me because I wanted to hear more.
So you're driving around in your car, listening to teachings about the Bible. You're connecting with God. You're falling in love with God. You're not making much money. How do you get to business that makes money?
How about making no money? $1,183
Yeah,
is not much.
Yeah.
Well, I went to a home group, and in that home group, I had a prophetic word that said, "You're going to own a business." And I thought,
What did that look like? Somebody
really wasn't a prophet. It was just somebody who was one of the people in our home group, and they just said, "I think God is telling me that you're going to own a business." And I said, "Okay." And so I thought, well, the easiest business to own would be the one that I've been trying to sell. I couldn't get sold. I mean, I know something about it now.
Right.
And so I talked to my accountant and said, "Do you know anybody?" And he said, "I know a guy that just came into a ton of money, and he just sold a business, and he might finance you." So I went to see him. He was an attorney. He was 50 years old, and he was thinking about retiring. He had made enough money on another venture that he had. And I went to see him, and I said, and by the way, my only experience with him is he was my bookie.
Your bookie?
Yeah, I'd made a bet on a Super Bowl, and I paid him, and so he knew that I was honorable in the payment.
Yeah.
And so that was my only experience with him, and I kind of think
Did you
he took
win?
advantage of me, huh?
Did you win your bet?
No, I lost.
Oh, you lost. You had to pay him.
And I paid.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I did, and so I went to see him, and I said, "I'd like to do this. I think this is what we need to do, and I'd like you to finance this." And he said, "Hey, I don't need to own a business. If you could figure out how to be a partner, I would be okay with that. But I'm not okay with just having you as an employee." And I thought, there's no way to be a partner. I've got $40,000 in debt. I've got no income. I've got nothing. And so I went home. I prayed about it. Said, I remember that God said I would be a partner in a business. And so I woke up in the middle of the night. Now, I wake up now for a different reason in the middle of the night. But then I woke up in the middle of the night, first time probably ever, got out a Big Chief tablet, for those who are old enough to remember what that is.
Big Chief tablet?
That's a yellow tablet with the lines on it you can write on. Pre-iPad days.
Okay.
So, and basically God gave me a business plan, a proposition to give to him. And I gave him this proposition. The next day I went out and I just said, "Look, I got this in the middle of the night. God gave me this revelation." And
You told him that?
Yeah. And I said, and I think this is what you need to do. And he said to me, and pardon me for the program, but he said, "If you've got the nuts to give me this proposition, I need to be your partner." And so he said, "Okay, here's the deal. I've got 4 or 5 rules. 1, you absolutely need to make good coffee, because I like good coffee."
You said that to him?
No, he says to me.
Oh, he says to you.
He says, "You need to make good coffee because I leave the office about 5 o'clock and I might stop by, and I like coffee in the afternoon and we'll visit. So I need to be sure you make good coffee." I'm thinking I can do that. He said, "And I want you to pay yourself more than you're proposing, because I don't want somebody who's working with me to be in need. And so you're not paying yourself enough. So I want you to pay yourself 25% more than you're proposing."
Wow.
I said, "Okay, I can do that." He said, "And you need to drive a better vehicle. If you're going to represent me, you need to represent well." So he said, "So I will get a new vehicle for you because we want you to drive a better vehicle." And I'm going, I like this so far.
Yeah, no, this is my kind of partner.
I like this so far. And then he said, "And here's the deal. Oh, he said, don't spend more than I've got. And I'm thinking, I don't know what you've got, but I'm not going to do that. And then he said, and I want my check as you're proposing twice a year, and don't worry me with the details. You have problems, you solve them. Don't worry me with the details. And something came along in about 4 or 5 months, just to kind of tell you how this worked. And something came along, and I called him, and I'm going to be overdrawn horribly, and we're going to be in tough shape. And I had a secretary with me that was a praying secretary. There were only 3 employees in this company, including me.
Yeah.
And I had to let one of them go in the first week. And so there was me and the secretary who I hired, who was a praying person.
She prayed.
Oh, yeah. And we're big overdrawn. I called him and I said, hey, we got problems. Either rule number 5, click.
He remembered.
Oh, yeah.
He said rule number 5, click.
Click. That was it. So
wow.
So the only option we had is God. And I remember we were $154,000 we were going to be overdrawn for the day. And I want to tell you, in those days, $154,000 could have been $100 million.
Yeah.
And we prayed. And before the day was over, we had enough accounts receivable came in to cover that bill. And so we weren't overdrawn. And so I learned to trust God a lot in those early days. And that was my first venture into business. And about a year and a half later, he died in a plane crash.
Oh.
And the bank cut me off immediately. I mean, it was like we're not loaning any more money. I mean, he had co-signed the note. It was all his credit. You know, I didn't know all of the background, but that's kind of how it was. And the oil company cut me off. They said, we are not going to supply you any credit. So just cash you can do, but that's it. And so I was really in trouble. And so now it is, okay, what can you figure out? And
Right.
and God told me, you call the person that delivers you fuel. And so I called him, and he said, I got a friend over in this other little town, and this friend has been supplying to the oil fields in Oklahoma, and they've kind of shut down. And if he doesn't pull the fuel, if he doesn't buy it, they'll cancel his contract. So I think he would sell you fuel. I said, well, I don't have any money. He said, well, I think he'd sell it to you on credit if you can figure it out. But you've got, he has to pay in 10 days. You're going to have to figure that out. And so I went out I thought about this, prayed about it. And I thought, I'm going to go out to my customers who are monthly customers. I mean, they were diesel irrigation. You're selling it in bulk and you're delivering it 3-4 times a month.
Yeah.
And so I went out to them and I said, here's the deal. I'm broke. My credit is gone. The bank won't loan me any more money. They're not foreclosing, but they're not loaning me anything. The oil company isn't giving me anything, but I can get fuel, but I got to pay for it. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to propose to you that I give you a discount and you pay me a month in advance of what your bill would be. And then whenever I send you a bill, I need you to pay me within about 3 days. And if you do that, I'll be able to cash flow this where I can pay my guy in 9 days, which I need to do. But you need to understand that there is a good chance I won't make it. If I don't make it, you're going to lose your monthly deposit because I have no ability to pay you back. And your alternative is...
You're just honest.
Your alternative is you
it.
can go back to the guy that you were buying from who was pretty well gouging you, and I'm not.
Right.
And I found favor with my customers, and at the time they advanced me about $400,000. Customers did, individual customers. The last one of those got their deposit back about 10 years ago. Now this was 37 years I kept that deposit and gave them a discount. Wow. So it went that long. Now here's the beauty of this story. And
and is this the company that you just sold a week ago?
I sold the company a week ago after 47 years.
After 47 years.
47 years.
Wow.
So I went, I never met this guy who was giving me the credit. Never met him. And he was giving me $300,000-$400,000 worth of credit. And he did for 2.5 years. Never met him, talked to him every day on the phone. He was about 250 miles away. And one day he came through and I met him, and I'm sure I wasn't who he thought and he wasn't who I thought. And we'd been operating without each other for 2 or 3 years at that point. And great guy. But about 6 months later, he had an aneurysm and died.
Wow.
And his son, who was in the fuel business, called me and he said, the oil company's cut me off. The bank isn't going to give me any money. I don't know what I'm going to do. Don't know what I'm going to do. I said, well, I got an idea. How about you pull fuel on me? You pay me in 9 days. Life will be okay. Now, it didn't go 2.5 years. It only went about 90 days. But I got an opportunity to learn from what his dad did for me so I could pay it back.
Wow.
And that's kind of the beginning of my fuel company. At the time, we had 3 employees. We did a total business of about $100,000 a month worth of gross receipts, made about $100,000 a year at most. And at that point, it's about 8% return, which was really good at that point. Fuel was selling for like $1.29 a gallon retail. And we grew that business, and back in 2000, that would have been in 1979, during the right after the oil embargo and all the things that went on. And again, when I bought the business, it was regulated, and they told you what you could make, and we were in a very advantageous position on making, and so it looked really good. 4 months after I bought it, deregulation came in, and all of a sudden you had to compete. And one of the beauties for me is I had not been in the business. I didn't know how it was to live in a regulated society, so competition seemed like a normal thing. And I had 6 competitors here, and 5 of them I wound up buying out because they were not able to compete, but I was. They wanted to stay the old way, no change. And it just wasn't possible in a competitive environment.
And you bought 5 of the 6 out.
Yeah. So we that's where we kind of built our business. Then we went into the convenience store business, and
I was gonna ask, so that was that your second thing? Convenience stores?
Well, it was part of the fuel business, but it was a totally different, from service stations to convenience stores.
Before you're providing the fuel, now you're selling it too.
Well, to ourselves, but we're also now selling groceries and, candy bars and Cokes and all the things that go with that. So we built a number of them, and I only had, I think at the height we had 18 stores. 4 or 5 of those were travel centers. The other were standard convenience stores.
Travel centers?
Travel, like for trucks and RVs and things like this. Larger convenience stores with diesel. In 2015, I sold, I think, 13 of those. And at our largest point, and I'm not real good on throwing numbers around, but I'll just say this because maybe it'll help the audience a little bit. But we went from this $1,200,000 a year worth of revenue to close
1.2 million a year.
1.2 million to close to $500 million a year in revenue. Now, not in profit, but in gross sales. And it was good. I mean, we had good growth. We moved up. We had a lot of employees, 200 employees or more.
Yeah.
And I sold those stores in 2015 for more than I thought we could ever make in that business. And then I sold stores in another state in 2018. And by then I was in some other businesses. I'd started I'd bought into a natural gas distribution business that had one meter, and I paid a bunch for it. And that was the single best company I've ever had. It was natural gas distribution. And at one point we had about 17 employees. And we grew that business. I had it for 17 years. I sold it. I put $125,000 in it to buy that 1 meter. I sold it for $53 million. So it was a fairly good proposition.
Yeah, that was okay. You did okay on that one.
But the fun of that is it provided cash to get into other stuff.
Right. But
the real fun is,
do you usually buy companies that are small and struggling, or I Google, by the way, so tell me if I'm wrong. Are you not Are you invested in about 120 or 130 companies right now?
Yeah, but I'm not actively involved in the management.
How many
of
would you
those.
be actively involved in?
A good number, maybe 30 or more.
So are they usually you saying, okay, I got an idea and start something new? Or do you usually find someone who's struggling and help them? Or do they come to you saying, listen, we're going broke. Can you become a partner?
It's been a little bit of all of that, but where most of my success has been is to find people to partner with. Everybody hates partnerships. I love them.
Really?
Yeah. Now, I will tell you, they can be disappointing, but in how it works. Let me go back a second to the gas company deal because it's kind of important. The joy in selling that
Yeah.
was not getting the check, okay? It was the most difficult time in my financial life because up until that point, I owed money. I didn't worry about it. There was no, you owe millions of dollars. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
God's going to provide. I'm decent at doing what I do. Life is going to be okay. But all of a sudden, I'm getting a payday. And it's like, I got $50 million coming. What if I lose it?
Wow.
What if I lose it? I couldn't sleep for 6 weeks. It's like, all of a sudden, what am I going to do with this money?
It was more stressful.
It's the only time in my life I've actually stressed. I don't do stress, but I did in this one. And I didn't know what to do. So I got a financial money manager and I said, I'm just going to give it all to you. Now, and you manage it for me. Well, let me tell you how that worked. I put $53 million in on October 1st, 2007. By October 31st, 2007, I had 37 of that left.
No.
They put it all in the market on the same day.
No.
And we lost it. It took 5 years of really good returns to make that back up. We had to go through 2008, 2009, and it took 5 years to get back to even. And so there is no such thing as safety in cash, safety in wealth.
No.
You better know where your source is because it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not guaranteed.
Well, and what do you think about...
Now the other part of that is, though,
Yeah.
I didn't worry about losing the money because somebody else was managing it. It was out of my sight at that point. They're responsible. I'm not feeling guilty about it. I did the best thing I could do, and I still had a lot more than I started with. Okay? So I was grateful it was okay. And that's been the foundation of what we've built on since for investments and other things.
One little tidbit before we leave the gas stations too far in our mirror there. One of your gas stations was actually voted to be, was it like the greatest gas station in the world?
It was voted as the best interior design in the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
It-
And that
it-
was like, and they were competing with other ones in like around the world.
The one of them for exterior design was in Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. So it was. I put everything that I'd ever learned in the convenience store business into that one store, and it was a fabulous store. And when I sold that in 2015, they've made changes in it. They've changed it. They've made it into their brand and so forth. But
Yeah.
but it was recognized by the convenience store industry as the outstanding store.
And
But I want to go back to the natural gas business a second because I think that's important.
yeah.
When I sold that, the joy, it's great to sell it. It's great to accomplish it. The money did great things. But what it did for me is it allowed me to give to every employee at least a year's salary in one lump sum as a bonus to them.
Just as a
Because
God bless you.
they helped build it. They got to reward. Now, some of them got a lot more than that. Some of them got 3 years.
Wow.
One got 4 years of his salary
As a bonus.
as a bonus.
They didn't know it was coming.
Yeah, they had no idea it's coming. But
How did they respond when you pull someone into your office? By the way, here's $400,000.
The response was most of their wives had more response than they had.
Like crying tears.
Yeah. I mean, it allowed people to adopt babies, to buy houses, to buy a boat.
Really?
A little bit of whatever. I don't know what they did with it. I know what some of them did. But it was, in my mind, it was well-deserved on their part. I wasn't looking for thank you. It was just, I felt like we owed that.
Yeah.
And so it worked well. And then my business, my fuel business of 47 years, I sold 10 days ago. And then all of our employees or all of our owners, and there were 9 owners. And that's a bit of a business. 12 years ago, I decided when we sold all the convenience stores, we cut our deal down to where we were only going to be about 40% of what we were when we had the stores, because we still had direct-to-customer sales. And so I sold to 7 other people at the time, 6 other people at the time. It turned out to be 8 in the end. 6 other people. I sold them 42% of my business. They were all employees or managers.
Wow.
They didn't have any money to put in, though. So I took it all on a note and said, okay, you can pay me out of the profits of the business. So you'll pay me, we'll pay your taxes, we'll distribute enough to pay the tax every year, and hopefully you have something left over. It's going to give you an opportunity to stay here 12 years. It's a 12-year note. So for me, it gets me to longevity. But what it does for me, if we don't make the money to pay the note, you don't have to pay it. In that year, you don't have to pay it.
Push it back.
So you have no risk, but you have a lot of reward if you stay to the end, which I think is a biblical principle. You stay to the end, you get everything. You leave early, you get nothing. And so,
that's Bible.
And so we're 11 years into that. And my plan was that with their 42%, they would be able to borrow enough money to buy me out when they got ready to buy me out. And that was my exit plan. And so I'm going to reward all of you with the opportunity to own the company. What I had discovered over the next 5 or 6 or 7 years is it would not be a reward. It'd be an anchor to them, because they did not want that kind of risk. They weren't geared for that kind of risk. And good managers, good people, very loyal, built our business, but they weren't wired like I am there. So there's too much risk. So at 11 years, it just seemed to be the right time to sell. And they all did quite well in the exit. But the reason they did quite well is
how many of them were there?
Well, there were 8 others besides me.
And would they have all become millionaires?
All but one got more than $1 million. Yeah.
Wow.
And
none of them had the
considerably
money.
more.
None of them had the money to buy in 11 years earlier.
There weren't. I had 3 people who were in 7 or 8 years before that, basic on the same kind of deal, and they did trade their cash back in. I paid them out and said, you have the opportunity to reinvest. So they put their money back in.
Yeah.
But it was money that they had earned from the business. It wasn't outside capital. But my plan was to do that. Now, here's the beauty of that, and this is the business lesson, I think. We had planned on making a certain amount every year. It was just enough that they would be able to make their payments, pay the taxes, probably wouldn't have much left.
Yeah.
When they went, and those were, and I'm okay at budgeting, and I was pretty sure this was the number. The highest number that I thought we could do, we are today, before we sold, 8 times more profitable than the day that we set this up 11 years ago. And we were only at 40%. Now we're considerably bigger than we were, but we went to 8 times the estimated profitability. So at 58% ownership, I'm making 4 times what I would have if I owned 100%. So sometimes it helps to have other people who are partners who have the same interests you do.
Yeah.
And it makes it where you don't have to work so hard because they're looking out after their investment.
Yes.
That's just the way life works.
And you get to watch them
sometimes a part
prosper.
is bigger than a whole.
Yeah. I asked a friend of mine, his name is Mike. He's a big business guy in our town too. And like yourself, he's built massive businesses and sold them. And he's had the same attitude as you. The joy of, well, one, I said, why do you want business partners? He said, I like partners because someone else sleeps at night. Or let someone else lose sleep at night.
That's right. I get to sleep.
So I get to sleep. But number 2 is like yourself, the greatest joy in building and selling a business for him is he watched all these other people become millionaires. And he said he loves it. He said, my secretary, my administrator, she's now a millionaire. That guy's a millionaire. That guy, all these people who served with me, busted their butts in the trenches, and now they're all rich.
Well, a lot of these guys have been with me 25, 30 and more years.
Yeah.
I mean, we all started as I've been in this 47. The next person's been in for 33. So I mean, basically I had about 15 years ahead of them.
Yeah.
Or 14 years ahead. But they've been with me a long time, and they've grown. I've seen them raise their families, and part of the deal is they all got 10 years older. So whatever risk aversion they had, it's worse now.
Yeah.
So
why do you think that you don't have a fear of risk? Like, why is it that risk doesn't seem to, like you said, I don't do stress. Like, you just don't seem to worry. Bad stuff happens, things that get thrown at you. You lose millions and millions of dollars on this. Someone makes a bad decision or whatever. Why is that? Just, have you always been that way? Or did you have a revelation one day that brought you into a place of peace?
I think part of that may be where I started. I started with nothing. I was happy. I've got a lot. I'm happy. It's kind of like Paul said, I know how to live with and live without. Living with's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I won't make any bones about that.
Yeah.
But it's okay. If I was without, I think I'd still be happy. I don't get attached to things. I don't get attached to money. I like the deal.
Yeah.
I like seeing things grow. I like to see things being built. I like to see things improved. And when people say it's not about the money, it's usually about the money. That's usually what that means.
Yeah.
And I think at one time it was, because it had to be. I had to feed my family.
Yeah.
I had to grow my family. We had to invest in the business. But at some point it changes to where it becomes, money just becomes a tool to do the things that you want to do or should do in life. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the challenge, is not how do you make money. Mm-hmm. I think some people are gifted in that line. I think if you took all the money in the world and shook it all up, except for those who inherited it, I think it would all wind up in the same pockets again in 4, 5, or 6 years. Right. So it is, if you obsess about the money in any business, it's probably not going to work well for you.
Right.
It's about the process. It's about the outcome. It's about, how do I grow this? How do I build this?
Yeah. How do you know when you're going to, that one that you sold for 50, you've done this lots of times. You've had, I'm kind of like, you've sold one for 18 million, one for 20, one for another one for, how do you like selling businesses? Is that fun? Build it and sell it?
Well, until about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I thought the only way to do business was to buy it, grow it, take the money off of it, eventually sell it. The new mantra is a whole lot more, you invest in it, we're going to exit in 3 years. I'm still not real in tune with that. That's where people in business make the most money, is in the, I get in, I get out. But that's never really been my field. So I've got a little of both. The ones I'm personally involved in are grow, and I don't really want to sell it because I want to grow it.
Right.
But if you're in with other investors, they want to sell it. Mm-hmm. So there's always that pull. If you're going to sell, you want to sell at the right time. Mm-hmm. Timing is pretty much everything. Mm-hmm. But I enjoy watching the growing more than I like the speculation on, we can get something and somebody else will pay more for it.
Right. Yeah.
I like that better.
You got into lots of things that you're not even necessarily educated in. Like you've never been you've never been driven a tractor, but you farm over 20,000 acres. Let's start with the farming, but what would cause you? Most people invest in one thing, one business, and it's something they're really good at and they really know. You don't seem to really need to be good at something to go pretty deep into it.
Well, I wouldn't recommend my path to anybody.
Okay.
So please, anybody that's listening to this discussion, don't think that the way I'm doing it is the way you should do it. If you're not wired this way, you will hate it.
Yeah.
I when we're talking about doing stress, I don't do stress, but I'm a carrier. Everybody around me is bald or white-headed at an early age. Okay, I enjoy the thrill of the adventure. I think for most people it would drive them crazy.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm like the Cliff Clavin of business, from Cheers.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
a little bit about something and not much about anything. And that's kind of where I am. I just enjoy seeing it, figure out what makes it work, and then figuring out how to tweak it from there. I said this to you yesterday. I don't think I've ever had an original idea. I've spotted a few and have been able to improve on them, but I'm not the guy who thinks about, well, wouldn't it be nice to invent this widget? I'm not that guy. Now, you invent the widget and you say, I'm really struggling with how I'm going to market this widget. I'm pretty good at figuring out how you might be able to move forward with that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I really enjoy in life. I have people who call every week, sometimes maybe on a daily basis, who say, I'd like a little help with this, I'd like a little help with that. And I'm a person that likes yes, and I enjoy that. It's like I really like doing that. And sometimes you can help somebody, sometimes you can't. Some people are coachable and some people aren't. Some people are wired for it, some people aren't. But for me, I don't have to understand the business or the technical part of it. I mean, I've been involved in a business a few years back that was in charge of setting up all of the security systems and computer systems for the Gulf War.
For the Gulf War.
For the Gulf War. But for me, I have trouble getting my email. So, and I was the chairman of the board of the company. Okay, so there seems to be a dichotomy in that. But what I usually bring to a board is common sense,
Yeah.
and some rationale. Where I find a lot of people on boards that have an axe one way or the other. It's all about, I got to do the money right now, or I've got a deep network that can help, and those are great things. But my contribution is usually common sense.
You're deep now into some of the, like you've invested tens of millions in some of this new high tech stuff, AI, robots. Like, tell me a little bit about the AI company and the security and some of that you've got into. 'Cause
Well,
that is hugely technical stuff.
Well, I'm involved in 3 AI companies that I'm the primary person or the largest investor in. And I believe AI is the future where we're headed. And I don't believe AI is going to take everybody's job. I think it's going to take the jobs of those people who don't understand AI as well as somebody else does, or how to use it as well as somebody else. But it's changing the world.
Oh, it is.
Absolutely changed the world. And I remember when we didn't have cell phones or even a copy machine or a fax machine. So life has changed a lot. But just think back a few years to where the internet was. I mean, we didn't have the internet. Now you couldn't operate without the internet.
No.
This is where we're going to be with AI, one way or the other. In the technical things, I'm involved in companies that do control of robots and drones and autonomous vehicles. We can make autonomous vehicles. We
Do
can.
they make drones?
We don't manufacture the drones. We can put the brains on the drones that make them go where you want them to go and do what you want them to do.
Okay.
And technology is moving so fast, and there are so few people who are really good at it. And everybody calls, they say it's AI driven, but there's only a small percentage of AI that's real true AI.
Really?
And I think we're on the cutting edge of some of that's going to provide immense security, and it's going to change the way that people do security. But do I understand it? I really don't. I can look at the demos and I can say, this makes sense. We ought to move forward with that or not move forward with that. And I'm willing to trust the people who I'm involved with.
Yeah.
And I think trust is a big deal. Kind of skipping around here a little bit, but trust is a big deal. And if you don't trust the people that you're associated with, you're going to have to just do one thing, and you're going to do it on the ball and chain program, because you're going to have to do it all, make all the decisions. And if you're the only guy you trust, you're in trouble. So my success for the most part is finding really good people, giving them an opportunity to do things, and then trust them to do it. I think I was telling you yesterday, you were asking about decision making. And I said, I trust the people that I work with and I partner with to make good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I will never be upset with them for making a bad decision.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be upset with them if they don't make a decision.
Wow. Say that again.
I'll be upset with them if they don't make a decision.
But if they make a bad decision,
we're going to learn from it.
Wow.
Okay, they're going to learn from it. I'm going to learn from it. We're going to review it, but I'm not going to second guess it. If I want to make that decision, I need to be there to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've entrusted them to make it. I expect they're going to make mostly good ones.
Yeah.
But somebody said one time, how do you make good decisions? Well, by making a lot of bad ones. We hope that our good decisions are bigger than our bad decisions.
Yeah.
We may make as many of bad ones as the good ones, but we want the good ones to be bigger.
Well, and you can't be invested in 100 and some companies and be seriously involved in 30 of them if you're a micromanager.
No.
You won't sleep at night.
No. And I compartmentalize pretty well. If I'm here talking to you, I'm not thinking about business. Okay. If I'm involved in 5 seconds with one, or 5 minutes with one, or 5 hours with one, I'm totally focused on that at the time that I'm in that. I'm not thinking about 50 other things. So It's not like you have to do a lot of multitasking. You just have to intentionally concentrate on what it is you're doing and what's in front of you at the time you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. I want to go into what's happened in Dalhart, because most business leaders, really successful ones, they really dial into their business or businesses. But you've had probably maybe one of the greatest accomplishments of your life has been in the investment that you've made into transforming this entire region. And I know you give other people credit. It's always a team. But you've been one of the very key players at pulling together a major economic transformation that has been referred to, and you can tell me if I'm quoting this wrong, but this was referred to as one of the greatest or the greatest rural economic transformations in the history of the United States. Who said that?
Governor Rick Perry.
The governor has said that?
Yeah, he didn't say it was most important. He said it was the largest. He said this is the largest rural economic development project in the history of the United States.
Okay.
That's a big statement.
That's a very big statement. So I want you to tell me that story. Okay, we've got Dalhart, this little community of only 6,000, 7,000?
8,000 people.
8,000 people. So this is not much bigger than my little town of Drayton Valley. We have a 6,500 or 7,000. And 20 years ago or so, it was kind of more of like a desert. There's not a lot that you could do here. High winds. The ground wasn't the best farming land, was it?
Oh, no, this is some of the best farmland in the world.
Oh, it is some of the best farmland. So it has that. But it was, tell me what it looked like 20 some years ago, and then just how that transformation took place.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, but I will also tell you that not many people in this small town know what happened.
Really?
We don't tell this story here locally very often, and they don't know what happened. They just know that change happened.
Right.
But a group of people in 2004 or 5, 3 people were looking at how could we do something here in this community. And I just read the book called The Worst Hard Times. It was about the Dust Bowl, which Dalhart was kind of the center of the Dust Bowl back in the late 20s.
The Dust Bowl?
What
was that?
They plowed up all the country here. They went on a 10-year drought, and all of it blew away. There was enough dirt blew from here to close New York Harbor.
Whoa.
The story, The Grapes of Wrath, was the Dust Bowl story of the Okies going to California. There are burial sites all along the highways here where people died in the dirt, and they buried them here on their way to California.
Wow.
It was a horrible, terrible time. People had to take a rope and tie to their door out to their barn or their well or their outhouse to be able to get through because the dirt was so bad. Cars had points in
The
those
dust
days.
in the air?
Yeah. Cars had points in those days and would short out the points, and the cars would die. People went blind from the dirt. It was a horrible, miserable time for Oklahoma, Kansas, and the Texas Panhandle.
Wow.
And that was in the late 20s.
Okay.
And he wrote a book, and it's called The Worst Hard Times. It was about the Dust Bowl, and it was about a couple of families from Dalhart and their experience. It was in the book, in the four families. But about the third or fourth page, he had a statement that said, it was a lost land then, it's a lost land now, and its only future is pigs in prisons.
Oh.
Now, this is in 2005, and we had just gotten a new prison here, a state prison, we thought would help the economy, and it didn't help that much.
It was lost then, it's lost now, and its only future is pigs and prisons. Just a morbid
Frankly,
prophecy.
this off. Okay,
It ticked you off.
that's not where we live,
Yeah.
but we were in hard times.
Yeah.
The crop prices were terrible. Cattle prices were terrible. The little bit of oil we had around here, the oil was terrible. We have a aquifer here full of water that we irrigate with, and the water is going down, and you're getting less water all the time. It was kind of a dire situation. That piece was true, and they came to me and said, we need to kind of figure this out.
3-4 guys.
Three guys.
3 guys.
And two of those became less involved, and so two of us kind of led this wagon for the most part. And I'd read a book called Competitive Advantage of Nations. It's about the Italian shoe industry, and there's been a lot of variations in the book since. But mostly, if you want to do transformation and you're desperate to do that, you look at what are your advantages? What are your advantages? And so we looked here, and everything that was a disadvantage to some other part of the world was an advantage here for what we wanted to do.
Like what?
For instance, we let me just say, for instance, we couldn't do a Toyota factory here. It takes 8,000 people. We only have 8,000 people.
Right.
You know, you can't do a high-tech deal here because we don't have that well of a trained workforce.
Right.
What we have is we have a work-oriented workforce, not a more educated workforce. We've got a work-centric workforce, blue-collar workforce.
Blue-collar.
We don't have any surface water. We don't have streams and rivers. It's 500 feet down to the nearest water. We have a lot of wind. We don't have much rainfall. I mean, it rains here sometimes 5 inches a year, sometimes 15 inches a year.
Yeah, none
but
of
not
these
much.
things sound like advantages.
They're not, unless you're in a particular industry. And we knew that we're used to the smell of manure here because we have within probably 150 miles of here, we've got about 30% of all the confined beef feeding in the world is done here.
Whoa.
So
hold on. 30% of all the beef cows in the world?
that are confined feeding, that are
Confined
in pens, that are fed, and not the ones that are grazing in
Okay.
other parts of the world, but
Are
confined
within
feeding.
how far of here?
Probably 150 miles.
Wow.
So we're used to high production agriculture. We're used to risk taking here. This is the Wild West in terms of risk taking. People in other parts of the world, you're from Alberta. It's kind of the Texas of Canada, or we're the Alberta of Canada, or of America, one or the other.
By the way, Alberta's very proud of that. They love hearing that we're the Texas. We
you
like
are.
to know that Texas sees us as the other Texas.
You have to take chances, and you have to do things in a big way because there's no other option.
No.
And nobody else is going to come help you, so you better figure it out. So it's kind of the frontier of life. That's why I love living here, is because you've got a lot of like-minded people who are just good at figuring things out. So we looked at this and we said, okay, we raise cattle here, so we know cattle work really well here. And there's a reason that they're all here. One is because we have a lot of feed for the cattle, so it's cheap feed in that respect because you don't have a lot of freight. Secondly, because our temperatures are cool at night and they're not real extreme, the cattle do well. Lastly, though, we don't have a lot of rainfall, so they're not slogging around in mud.
Right.
And a lot of disease that comes with that, and bacteria and all that kind of thing. So they do well, they grow well. So we know beef does well here, and we know that we have the ability to provide feed. We also know that the feed yards have the ability to bring in on rail dry grain from the Midwest. They can grow it cheaper than we can grow it. But the difference is just the transportation. If we quit farming today, our feed yards would be just fine because they would just rail in their grain.
Really?
Okay? But we needed something to sustain the farmers, and something that would sustain the farmers long term as the water goes down. So what we said is, okay, it's 500 feet to water. If we bring dairies in here, for instance, there's no runoff from the manure. We can be environmentally safe because you're not going to contaminate the water supply because it's 500 feet down. Okay? There's no streams to run it into. There's no lakes to contaminate.
Right.
We've got wind. Wind blows away flies. It blows away odor. It blows away bacteria. It's a good thing if you're in the cattle business. We don't have many people, so we don't have many people to object to building a dairy close to you. And most of the dairies that, in California, the city builds up around them, and then they complain because the dairies next to them is too much ammonia smell or something.
Right.
Here, that's not a problem. Our workforce is geared for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that you can make a good living doing this, but that's what our workforce is geared for. We had 2 U.S. highways that cross here. We have 2 national railroads that cross here. So transportation out of here is good. We're located in the middle of nowhere, which means we're equal distance to everywhere. So
you see the bright the bright side and everything.
So if you're going to ship your product out, if you're shipping from California to New York, it's a long way. But if you're shipping from Dalhart to California, it's half that distance. You're shipping to New York, it's half that distance. So if you're shipping to Wisconsin, it's half
nice
that
to
distance.
be central.
So we're central. All of those are advantages to be in the dairy business. And so we said, okay, we should, and there already were a couple of dairies here, and they were doing well, and they were shipping their milk away from here, and they were selling it as milk. Okay. But we said, okay, so what could we do? Well, milk isn't that good here because the freight is so far to go to wherever you want to be because we're not a population center.
Right.
But if we could manufacture cheese here, if you can make cheese, that's only 10% of the freight out because only about 10% of the milk turns into cheese.
Right.
The rest of it turns into either other products or water. So if we could do cheese, it'd be great. Well, the problem is that cheese factories need cows. They need dairies. Dairies need a place to go with their milk. So we don't have the cheese factory and we don't have the cows.
Right.
We're kind of chicken and egg. So that
This
required
is you and 3 guys sitting around talking about this.
trying to figure this out.
We could be the cheese capital of the world.
Well, we didn't think quite that big.
No.
But we did think we could at least do some.
Right.
And we
And none of you guys know the first thing about cheese. Are any of the other 3
one
guys
of the 4
farmers?
One of the 4 was a dairy builder.
Okay, so he
And
knew
all
dairy.
3 of the others were farmers.
Okay, they were
They're
farmers.
farmers. And so they knew that the kind of crops we grow here and the quality of the feed and all of that, they knew that. And they also knew they were in trouble farming. Now, my motivation from an economic point of view is had a natural gas distribution company, and I'm supplying these natural gas wells that are pumping the water for the crops. I also deliver diesel and motor oil to farmers, and I also was a seed dealer. We sold seed. As a matter of fact, at one point, we're the largest pioneer dealer in the U.S. So we're selling seed for corn seed. We're selling that to the farmers. So my whole business depended on them being successful, and they were in a rough slog.
Wow.
Okay, very rough. So, but just from a help your community point of view, we got to do something.
Right.
So we began to look and see what could we do and how could we bring dairies. One of our people was connected to the dairy business in California because he had worked for an environmental company that was dealing with a good number of them. So he knew a good number of those people, and that was our end to go do it. First thing we decided we need to form our own chamber of commerce. So we got 83 businesses to pay us $250 a month so that we could advertise, we could travel to California, we could do the things we need to do, we could bring people in, pay their hotel rooms, whatever, so that we could try to bring dairy people here to see if they would dairy. Okay. And they're going, we would dairy if we could find a cheese plant. Okay. Then we want to bring the cheese plant in. They say, we'd build a cheese plant if we knew we could get milk.
Right.
And so that was a bit of a quandary. We tied on to first a bad, I would say a weak cheese plant, and decided this was not what we wanted. We did not want a failure. We want somebody that's successful.
Right.
And so we located what we thought was the most successful privately owned cheese plant in the world, which is Hilmar Cheese in California.
Hilmar, yeah.
And so we kind of courted them, and when we got, they were very friendly, very upfront, they came out, they looked, we put them up in an airplane, they could see all the crop circles, all that was good. But then they kind of went silent on us, and they just didn't visit with us. We didn't hear anything. So one day,
for how long?
Probably a year and a half. So we get a call.
And what year is this?
This would have been like a 2003 or 4.
So this
maybe
is
5.
only 21 years ago.
20 years ago, yeah.
20 years ago.
So we get a call one day from the owner or chairman of the cheese plant, and he said, well, why didn't you put in a proposal to be one of our sites? We're going to move, and we've got 25 sites picked out that people submitted proposals to get us to come, and you guys didn't do it. And you're the one that we thought would be the first people on the list. So we didn't know about the proposal. Well, somehow that proposal got thrown in the trash because somebody said, this is too big a deal. It won't fit Dalhart. So we said, how can we get back in the mix? And they said, well, if you will, if we have consultants that are coming through Dalhart on Wednesday on their way to meet the 5 cities in Dalhart in Texas that are bidding on this deal. And we said, well, can we get in with the 5? And we tried that, and we weren't able to get into the meeting with the 5. It was a closed meeting, but we met with the consultants first. Turns out that they were fellow believers. They
really
do what was, it was amazing. And so we spend about 4 hours with them on Wednesday, and their basic take is, we really shouldn't even go to the other 5. This is where we need to be, because we had our ducks together. We'd spent a year researching this and knowing all the ins and outs and why it would work here. And but we had a lot of uphill battle because the state was going to offer them a package, but we weren't in on the package. We weren't privy to what was happening. So I spent a considerable amount of time, about 11 months, on a free basis with dealing with the governor's office, the lieutenant governor's office, the speaker's office, trying to figure out how we could get incentives to bring them here, because it looked like they were going to Idaho. In Idaho, they had a Simplot potato plant that had closed down, that the facility was being offered to them. It's maybe 1 million square feet or something. They had hydroelectric power, which was cheap. They had refrigerated rail service. They had a milk co-op that was willing to pay them like $5 million to take their milk. They had cheap land. They had a workforce, the Simplot potato dealer, 500 employees there that were either unemployed or underemployed, that were food service kind of workers that fit the plant. Looked like they had everything.
Mm-hmm.
They already were taking options. The owners were options on farmland to buy so that they could build their dairies up there. So we started a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we had here, though, is we had a field at the edge of town, 320 acres at the edge of town with nothing on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we didn't want to use that whole, like Reagan said once upon a time, I don't want to use this advantage against you, but what we had was we had opportunity. What they had is they had infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
We had opportunity. So our story was this: you go there, you'll be one of 3 cheese plants. You're me too. You're going to have to milk black and white cows because that's what they've got, which is very inefficient for cheese. You're going to deal with people that already have their deal set up, and you're not going to get to pick your suppliers. They're going to pick you. You're going to have an old facility that you're going to be working on for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Here, you've got a greenfield opportunity. You can be the newest and best in the world. You can build it the way you want to build it. You can pick the people that are going to supply you. You can pick the kind of cows, the brown ones, the Jerseys. You're gonna pick the kind of cows that make the most cheese. You're going to be the most efficient, and you're going to start from scratch, and you're going to build legacy for your families here. So you can take the route that's the easy route, or you can take the opportunity route. They agreed with our story.
Wow.
They liked it. The problem is they wouldn't tell us what it took to get here. And the state wouldn't offer anything unless they knew what it was they wanted, because they didn't want to be embarrassed by making an offer that wasn't the right offer. And so for 11 months, it's back and forth trying to get one to commit or the other to commit, or just tell us what's going on. And we're working third party out here. Now, the beauty of all this is that God had told the two of us early on, just in our heart, they're coming. We knew they were coming. So it did not make any difference how many obstacles we had. We knew they're going to come. It's sort of like reading the end of the Bible. You're pretty sure that we win. And okay, it's the same program. So we knew it was going to happen.
Well, it's like this. I've heard you say it a couple of times now, as you say, I know it's impossible, but if it wasn't impossible, how would we do it?
Yeah, that actually is one of my kind of life mantras. Is I think people don't get to asking the question. I mean, God says with Him, everything's possible. Sometimes the facts tell us differently.
Yeah.
But facts are subject to change, and we don't recognize that sometimes. So sometimes we have to say, "Look, I know it's impossible. I'm looking at the facts.
Yeah.
But if it were possible, how would we do it?" If you ask that question, that inner voice inside you, which is the Holy Spirit, however you want to classify that, gives you the answer.
Yeah.
People don't
There's
ask
a way.
the question. They don't ask the question. But if you ask the question, you do. And we asked that question a lot because we had a lot of obstacles.
Yeah. So how did you figure out what they wanted?
Eventually, we kind of figured out what they had, and we figured out what it would take to kind of offset what they had.
Okay.
And there was something called the Texas Enterprise Fund. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was designed to bring in big things for the state. It was really designed to bring the collider that was going to be built in Wichita Falls, so the atoms would spin around and 100 miles long or something, so that you could do kind of a hyperloop. It eventually got used for the Toyota plant in San Antonio. They had some political problems with it because there was not a rural application for this, because there isn't anything rural big enough to use the fund the way they wanted to use it, because it required having a lot of employees. And we tailored our request to fit that fund.
Okay.
And so, but we had to have partners. So we went to the city of Amarillo, who had a new mayor and 3 new city council members out of the 4, a new economic development group, totally new, and asked them for money. And they had never done anything outside the city of Amarillo, ever.
Yeah, and Amarillo's an hour away.
It's an hour and a half. It's 80 miles.
Right.
And they've got stuff of their own. They had just spent $200 million bringing Bell Helicopter and supporting Bell over time. We needed $5 million to make our deal work. We need $5 million. And their dilemma was, if we give you $5 million, there's 30 other towns in the Panhandle. We're going to have to give all of them $5 million. So we structured this to say, if they qualify for the Texas Enterprise Fund, give them the money. If they don't. We'll qualify for the fund if you'll give us 1/3 of whatever they give. You give 1/3 of whatever they give, it'll work. And they agreed with that. And they said that would be a fence we could put around this and make it work. And since Amarillo gets 55% of their revenue from sales tax from outside the area, not from in the city, it pays back for them well.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, just as an aside, their $5 million that they invested in Dalhart pays them on par or better than the $200 million they spent getting Bell Helicopter. There's that big of impact in the Panhandle used toward Amarillo. So it's a big deal.
Wow.
They agreed to 1/3, $5 million, 1/3. We ran into all kinds of problems, including in the last 10 days or so, the state deciding to cut back their $15 million offer to $7.5 million, which cut the $5 million to $2.5 million. So all of a sudden, instead of having $20 million in cash, and we had about $50 million in incentives various and sundry incentives. But instead of having 20 million, now we're only going to have 10.
Yeah.
And so we had to scurry pretty hard. And working with the state, we said, okay, can you do something in kind? And we got Emerald to agree because they really wanted to do it. If we can get an in kind for the other $7.5 million from the state, they'll still give us the 5.
Yeah.
And so we decided on a road. And while it may take 20 years normally to build a road, or 25, we got this road approved in 4 days.
In 4 days.
4 days. So you don't think there might have been a little bit of divine intervention?
Yeah.
We had to close railroad crossings. We had to buy land between the railroad and the plant because we didn't have any land now, because the plant originally, long story, but where everybody was going to locate 7,500 acres next to this plant where 3 dairies were going to be built, the guy sold it to somebody else 10 days before this was going to happen. So we had no land. So lots of problems. They agreed to the road. We had to overcome the idea that we had to get this railroad crossing. And then I'll tell you how that came about. There was a local guy here who owned it. It wasn't worth much. It was junk land. I mean, it was on the wrong side of the tracks. It wasn't big enough to do anything, but there was 11 acres there. And it was probably worth $2,200.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to him and I said, look, here's the deal. What you got is probably worth $2,200. I'd like to offer you $22,000 for it, 10 times what it's worth. But what I want you to know is I can't promise you any business out of this. He was in the trucking business. I said, we could try. If you want $2 million for it, or $2.2 million, you might get it. If you want $220,000, you might get it. I can't tell you you won't, but I can tell you that this is something that could kill the deal. And this is important to our community. Are you willing to sell us something for more than it's worth, but less than you could get for it, to basically save our town?
Wow.
And he said, yeah, I'll do that.
Wow.
So sometimes just telling the truth, laying the facts out, trying to get it done, they see the value, they do it. Now, if I'd gone in there and tried to manipulate him, we probably wouldn't have gotten the land.
Right.
Okay. But he saw the value of helping this community, and he sold it. That was kind of the final straw. We had to figure out how to get rid of all this water. I mean, they generate over 1 million gallons of water a day.
Cheese factories?
Yeah, over 1 million, because 90% of the milk that comes in, that it turns into water. Yeah. So we had to find a neighbor who was willing to take the water onto his farm and use it for irrigation, which meant he couldn't build a dairy on that part of his farm because of the environmental qualities. We had to get a power company to be willing, that wasn't servicing them, to be willing to build a line in to service them because the other land was sold. A lot of issues. The other issue was this property that the guy decided not to sell to us was where 3 of these dairies were going, and we only had 10 days. And so what are you going to do? So the owner said, look, you go buy the best 3 farms in this area and you pay, I'm a real estate broker, said you pay 30% more than it's worth. Just offer them 30% more than it's worth.
Huh.
And because we think it'll go up from there. But if we don't get this in the hat before we make this announcement, we think it's going to cost more.
Right.
Well, these are all guys that were looking for liquidity. They were getting up in age. They were ready to do it. And so we went out and bought 3 of the farms that were, they were the best and highest priced farms in the area at 30% more than they were worth. So it was a good deal for the people
They did
selling. They were
Yeah.
happy. That established my real estate business.
Is that how you started?
Well, I'd been a real estate broker since 1979. I told you before I got in the field.
Right.
I didn't sell anything. I didn't buy anything, but I kept my license.
Right. Okay.
I'd actually gone out to other realtors in town and said, would you represent this High Plains Dairy Council, our Chamber of Commerce? Would you be the realtor? And pretty much what they told me is these guys won't buy anything. They'll only buy 80 acres or so to set their dairy up. And they will, and besides, this isn't going to work. You can't dairy north of I-40. And I'm thinking, well, Wisconsin's north of I-40.
Yeah.
But he says it's too cold. It won't work. So I decided,
So you tried to give these realtors the opportunity to represent.
Yeah.
And they didn't want it.
They would not join our group.
So your little realtor group, which was doing nothing.
It's just me personally.
Just you.
As a real estate broker, didn't even have an office. I wasn't doing anything.
Okay.
So the guy,
you represented for those 3 farms.
yeah. So
Okay.
I bought those 3. Now the guy that helped put this together, integral part of it, he became my real estate partner. He went and got his license, and he became
Okay.
a real estate salesman. So the 2 of us run this real estate company. Now, we run what I would consider one of the worst real estate companies in the world if you were to look at this in a normal way.
Yeah.
We've never made a written proposal. We
Never.
don't have any business cards. Our advertising is listed as is limited just a little goodwill. I've got a website, but really just for the purpose of selling some houses because people who come to buy farms want to buy a house. And so I've got a girl that does that, and I don't sell any houses. We don't have any outreach, but over the last 12 years or so, we've listed or sold well over $1 billion worth of real estate here. All because
Wait, back up.
all
Let me just say
because
this.
somebody backed out of a deal.
You tried to give it away. They didn't even want it. You don't even have a business card, and you sold over $1 billion worth of land
Yeah,
just for this deal.
just in this area. Yeah, just here.
Wow.
And it's all because this came, and it's because we went out and offered somebody more than what it's worth. Everybody knows your name when you do that.
Yeah.
And they go, I want it done. And we run a really different kind of real estate business. It's all word of mouth. I mean, people come to us and say, I want to sell my property or I want to buy property. And this is going to sound really callous, but here's how we operate that. If they really get down to who do you represent, I'm going to tell you realtors represent themselves. They won't tell you that. They say, I'm representing the buyer, I'm representing the seller. No, I just tell them, I mean, guys, I'm representing myself.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll handle the buying and the selling. We'll take both sides of this. If you want to sell for the highest possible price, you probably got the wrong guy. If you want to buy at the lowest possible price, you got the wrong guy.
You tell them that.
Yeah. But if you want to make a deal and you want to get it closed, you got the right guy. Wow. We'll get it closed. We'll make the deal. And you'll be happy with it, and you'll be happy with it, because if you're not, you won't do the deal. And I don't get paid. And I like getting paid. So I'm going to get to where you make the deal. And we close probably the highest percentages of sales anywhere, because our whole goal is to close the deal, not to beat the other guy up. It has to wind up working for both sides.
It has to be win-win.
And in the end, that's what people want. They won't admit that. I mean, I want the most. Well, you can want the most and sit there for 5 years on your property and not sell it. Mm-hmm. You can want the least, and you can try to buy something for 5 years and not buy what you want. You're going to take something else. Or you can work with somebody who's going to get it done. Mm-hmm. And our deal is, let's just get it done. Mm-hmm. And it's worked pretty well.
Wow.
And so we do our own contracts. We do all our own showing. And like I say, it's not an advertising program. It's a terrible real estate business, but it's a great business.
You mentioned early on, there was one, I don't know if maybe you can or cannot tell it on the podcast, but there was one property where the guy didn't want you to be a part of it?
Well, that was the property where the cheese plant was going to, next door to where the cheese plant was going to be located, that had the three dairies were going to locate right there. Three of the owners were going to locate on that property.
Okay.
And I'd had it in the contracts, the guy's hands to contract, and he had stalled around on signing the deal, and he just stalled, blamed it on the attorney and a little bit of everything, and just stalled and wouldn't sign it. And we're coming up to, this is the 10 days before, but we're now 11 days before this is going to have an announcement, and we don't have this contract signed.
Wow.
So I go out with the chairman of the cheese plant, and we sit down and we tell him how important this is to the community and how grateful we are that he's agreeing to do this, and we just want to get it signed. And he lets us leave, and we leave, and the next morning about 7 o'clock or 7:30, the chairman of the cheese plant calls me, and he's from California, but he calls me and he said, come meet me. And I came and meet him, and he said, look, the owner of that property called me last night and asked me to meet with him this morning at 6 o'clock. And I met with him, and here's what he said. He said, you've got have a $600,000 commission coming on this sale, and he doesn't really think you've earned that.
So this guy selling doesn't think you, Dyke, deserve the commission.
It didn't have anything to do with the commission. It really had to do with, he had an axe to grind with me from years before that I thought we had resolved. I'd done everything I could to resolve it.
Yeah.
He was one of the 2 or 3 people I thought in the world that would have angst, and I thought we had it resolved.
Yeah.
I did on my part, evidently didn't have on his.
Yeah.
So the deal he made with the cheese plant is, look, we can all prosper from this. I'll just take $250,000 more, and I'll let you guys, I'll reduce the price $250,000 for you, and we'll just pay him $100,000, and that's all he deserves, and we'll make it work. So the chairman said, what do you think of that? Well, I mean, I was kind of crushed in that process. It's like, not because of the money, but because the guy would feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because the money wasn't going to change my life. It wasn't. And I didn't get into it for the money. The money's nice, but I didn't get into it for that. I got into it because I wanted to do something to save our town.
Yeah.
So I said, you got to do what you got to do. I'm okay with it. I'll find another way to prosper on this, or if I don't at all, it's okay. And so he said, well, I got to go talk to my board. So he went into my conference room, and he was on the conference call for 30 minutes or so. And he said, would you come tell my board what you told me? And so I did. And I had about 30 minutes to wait again. And he came in and he just said, Dyke, we're not going to do it.
We're not going to do it.
We're not going to do it. And my stomach just came to about where my feet were. And I said, well, excuse me, put that in English for me. You're not going to do what? And I'm thinking he's saying, we're not coming here. Okay. He said, we're not going to start our relationship on something that's not ethical.
Wow.
This is not ethical. So I said, so what does that mean? He said, what that means is you got 10 days to solve our problem. We've got to have road access. We got to have power. We got to get rid of the water. We have to be able to have rail access. And we need 3 farms, the best 3 farms you can buy in this country. And we'll pay 30% more for them. And you just have 10 days to get it handled. Now, I want to tell you, I think I'm pretty good. I'm not that good. Okay. Without some divine intervention.
Yeah, you could be a good negotiator, but that's a lot for 10 days.
That would not have happened. It all happened in 10 days.
Dear God.
All of it in 10 days. So when the governor came up and he thanked the county commissioner and the county judge and all the people for putting this thing together, you know, I think everybody's sitting in the crowd, about 400 or 500 people watching the governor make this announcement. I think they all thought it just came together, you know, and frankly, we really have never told that story here in Dalhart. A few people know here and there, but we've never made a big deal out of it. But what it's done, and I've had a chance to talk now, to speak on this transformation in Brazil, in Ecuador, in Aruba, in Uzbekistan, in Canada. I've had opportunities to talk about regional transformation and how you go about it.
Yeah.
All over, but we don't talk about it here.
Well, let's talk about how it changed the community, because that cheese company did come. So did others. So did all the dairies. They all came. And this is like cheese world now, only 20 years later. What has been the ripple effect of all of these dairies and these cheese companies coming to this area?
Okay, well, there's 2 big effects. First is just direct investment, okay? There's, with the dairies that have come and with the plant was probably only $200 to $300 million total investment. But there's been at least $2 billion worth of other investment in dairies and cows and infrastructure and things. $2 billion.
$2 billion.
Yeah.
Around a town of 8,000.
Yeah. Now, all that income doesn't come into the town. I mean, they're buying supplies from other places. A lot of this is in Amarillo. You know, the steel companies, the rotaries, the equipment for the dairies, all of that. We get the labor benefit, but there's not tons of equipment type benefit, or the cows aren't coming from here. In addition, we figured that our farmers make an extra $44 million a year because they now can raise products that are not dry grain because they don't have enough water to raise enough dry grain. And that dry grain can be hauled in, but we're raising forage, which takes less water, shorter raising time, and you can raise it on more acres. And dairy cows eat about 80+% forage. These beef cows take about 80+% dry grain.
Oh.
So you can rail into dry grain. The beef cattle wouldn't save our country. It
Right.
saved it for 50 years, but it won't save it. But the dairy cows will, because we can raise forage for the next 50 years on
Right.
the water that we have. We wouldn't be able to raise enough dry corn. Wow. So, and they would never come here just for the forage, but since they're here and the investment's here, they're going to stay here and they will do well with it.
Wow.
Now, one of the biggest dairies built his own cheese plant. Now, this cheese plant, Hilmar, is on some days when it's running full out, is the largest single-site cheese plant in the U.S. On other days, with theirs being in Hilmar being the largest, on other days we're the second largest, with Hilmar being, we're second largest or largest, depending on the milk supply on that day. The largest dairyman here has built his own cheese plant. Now, he still ships into Hilmar, but he built his own cheese plant, and it's about half the size of Hilmar today, but it will be, it'll be 90% the size of Hilmar in 2 or 3 years. So we will have 2 of the largest cheese plants in the world in Dalhart.
Right here.
Now, what's the ripple effect? Most West Texas towns have trouble keeping their Dairy Queen open. Okay, there's just no growth. It's stagnant. Here, because I get a chance to go out and speak, I have my granddaughter go and take pictures of things that she thought came because of the plant. This is a year ago in July. We had 167 pictures that she took of either structures or businesses or facilities that would not be here had the cheese plant not come. An example would be the Frank Phillips Junior College would not be here without the cheese plant. In their deal, there's a welding program, wouldn't be here without the plant. There's now a diesel mechanic school, wouldn't be here without the plant. There's a CDL driving school, wouldn't be here without the plant. We got a new high school that we could only afford because of the taxes that the plant got to pay onto that high school. They paid about 22% of it. We got a new football stadium that we wouldn't have had without that. There have been 2 banks that have built here but they would not have built without the plant. There have been restaurants, there have been welding shops, electrical contractors, nutritionists, veterinarians, concrete companies, just trucking alone. There are 5 equipment companies here now. There was one. Maybe 2 came toward the end.
Because give us an idea, just trucks alone. Talk trucks. How many trucks have to be running to keep a cheese factory like that in the milk?
Okay. If you calculate what they're doing on their max day, there's a semi-load of milk unloads every 4 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now,
semi-load. How much milk is that?
That's about 50,000 pounds.
50,000 pounds of milk
call it
every
5,000 gallons.
Every
6,000
4
gallons.
minutes. That's one plant, one cheese factory?
One cheese factory.
Every 4 minutes.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, it isn't all even.
Yeah.
But that's what it comes down to, because they can unload several trucks at a time. So sometimes there's not anybody waiting. Other times they're unloading several trucks.
Right.
But it's still one load every 30 seconds. Now,
every 4 minutes.
Every 4 minutes. The other end of that is that for every load of milk, there's 8 loads of feed that's loaded and unloaded somewhere. It takes 8 loads of feed to make 1 load of milk. So that means every 30 seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there's a truck unloading. Now, it comes seasonally because that's how harvest.
Yeah.
So sometimes there are a lot of trucks unloading, hundreds of trucks unloading. But 8 loads, so every 30 seconds, 24 hours a day. So that generates a need for truck sales, trailer sales,
tires,
manufacturing, tires, brakes, mechanics, GPS, more law enforcement people to give tickets to the truckers, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So it builds an economy.
Yeah.
And the whole plan is build a hub and subsidize the hub, so that all these other things come as satellites.
Yeah.
And then each of those things has their own satellite of suppliers and vendors. And some of those have other suppliers and vendors. So you have this big plethora of economy that comes that generates now about $2 billion a year in economic impact in the Panhandle area.
That's
with over half of that going to Amarillo.
Wow. And Dalhart, for the most part,
prosperous for it.
and much of Dalhart doesn't even know how this all happened.
5% know how it happened.
Wow.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That people don't have to know how things came about. You don't have to know how to make the watch to tell time.
No.
But we're very blessed in this community. There's one other community in all of West Texas that probably is as prosperous as this, and it's an oil community that's done very well.
Wow.
But Dalhart is a prosperous town with a lot of life left in it. We got a new middle school, built a new high school. I mean, the school system, we're presently working on solidifying the hospital. We're building a new nursing home here to be able to support the hospital. So the community is doing well.
Mm-hmm. The Bible says, don't despise the day of small beginnings. Did you ever think when you and three guys sat around in a living room, started hashing around, what could we do, to help this community take off? Could you ever have imagined that what might have come out of that could even be 1% of what this is?
Well, we knew it'd be more than one, but we certainly didn't think it'd be where it is. We didn't have a vision that big. No. The thing that we knew, and this is the key to the deal for me, is that we knew that we knew that we knew that they were coming. We knew that would bring change. What I thought it would bring, I was wrong about. Okay, what I thought it would bring is a lot of 35 and 40-year-old people who would provide the leadership for your community. Small towns don't die for lack of capital. There's a lot of people have a lot of money in small towns. They die for lack of leadership. And that's primarily young leaders who don't step up. And I thought these dairymen, a lot of them were going to be 35 to 50, they would become the leaders of the community. I misjudged that. They're great people, but they have a tendency to stay on their own and protect their own. That's just the culture that they operate in. So very few, I won't say none because some are, but very few have taken a leadership role in the community. Wow. The other thing I thought is because Hillmar is a deeply moral, spiritual group. They're mostly Dutch Reform people, but they're very oriented toward the right thing, very Christian process oriented. I thought that would transform our community spiritually. Mm-hmm. I've probably seen the opposite. That has not happened. And that would be the disappointment from a Christian point of view. Churches have shrunk, not grown. We've got more kids' sports. We've got more activities. We've got more events that happen on Sunday morning or Wednesday night or whatever. That community, the faith community, has not stepped up to keep pace with the economic end of the community. That hasn't happened.
Wow, that's sad. One thing you said to me yesterday over that awesome barbecue you took me for, what was that little hole in the wall called?
Hody's Barbecue.
Hody's Barbecue.
Good barbecue.
Good barbecue. Hody's Barbecue. But I asked you, and this surprised me, but about how much this community must have grown. Like, did it double in size, triple in size? And you said it wasn't that it grew really much at all, but it got younger. Can you explain that?
Yeah, when you have a community that doesn't have liquidity, there's nobody coming in to buy your house or to buy your farm. It just gets older, and
in age, just people
in age.
The
median age of the community goes up. And in West Texas, which are mostly rural small towns, exclude the city of Amarillo or Lubbock. In the rural areas, they generally go up 7.5 to 9 years in median age per decade. That's been going on for a couple of decades. So the town gets older and older. Older people don't buy things. If they have money, they go elsewhere to spend their money. They go on cruises or they go visit whatever. and they don't need to buy things. They got everything they need. Young people need things. A wrecking ball doesn't help a town. I mean, you need growth, you need activity, and young people bring that. We were right at 7,000 people before Hillmar came. We're right at 8,000 people now. So, that's not much change, 1,000 people. But what's happened is in the 20-year span, 20 years, we've only grown 1.25 years in median age, which means we've gotten a lot younger.
Wow.
So we've got more kids. The schools are bigger. That piece is growing. The older population is shrinking. The demographics have changed. What drives the economy has changed. But people need to buy things, and that generates economy. And so the town is more vibrant. The restaurants are fuller. The shops have more people in them. The activities are more active, and all of that brings vitality to a community.
Wow, that's wild. Next, where I want to go next is I want to talk about this university, West Texas University, because I love that you never forgot just how blessed you got. You came out of poverty, and someone helped you get to this university, and they had a good program. It helped you, but you've been invested in this community. I know you've invested millions into this university now, but you've not just given boatloads of money. You really mentor the students in this one program. Can you tell me that story? Because it's when we get alone and we're chatting, that seems to be, to me, almost like the thing you're most passionate about, which is interesting, because you got 100 businesses on the go. You think that would be your passion, but you are really passionate about a bunch of young people. Tell me about that.
I made the statement that said, a moment ago about why small towns die. They need leadership. So when we decided we would get involved at West Texas, which is only about 20 years ago, we got involved. I helped them in a fundraising campaign, and I did that. And after we were done, we're looking at things that we might want to participate in this.
What were you raising funds for?
For West Texas. We were
for the university.
Yeah. They were trying to raise $35 million, which was a big deal for a regional university. We raised 53.
Wow.
Now, we just finished a fundraising campaign that finished a week ago that Terry and I helped co-chair that raised $208 million. So life has changed some in the size that you can raise.
For that university?
For a regional university. A regional public university. $208 million, yeah.
Wow.
It's totally transformed the university. Total transformation. Now it's taken 7 years to do that, and over those 7 years things have been built and done and programs.
I'd like
started.
to put you in charge of raising money for my ministry.
Yeah, I'm not that good at it. but what we did 15 years ago, we decided that what we would do is we would support the starting of a leadership institute.
Leadership Institute at West Texas
A&M. So we put a lot of time and effort into what that should look like. And they proposed a beginning of this. And so they proposed how it should be set up to start. And then Terry and I got involved. And so we, what you call endowed it. We provided the money from an endowment to be able to pay 2 people to run the program. 1 faculty advisor that we just pay a stipend to, and then 1 program director that we provide all their salary and expense, and an assistant to help them with this. And the program is set up with 25 juniors and 25 seniors. They get into it their sophomore year and they stay 2 years. And
so it's a 2-year program.
2-year program.
On leadership.
But
so would this be one class that they're taking?
It's a Friday. There aren't any classes on Friday except this.
Okay.
And it's 3 hours every Friday.
3 hours every Friday.
So it's a commitment for them.
Yeah.
And we've gone through all sorts of iteration, but we named this. It's called the Dyke and Terry Leadership Development Program.
Your wife's name is Terry.
Yeah.
Dyke and Terry Leadership
Development Program.
Okay.
Now, we call it Lead WT. That's
Okay.
what it's called. And we wanted it to be something special. And so we put our name on it for a reason. And the reason we put our name on it is because we wanted to have influence over it.
Well, and I know you fought someone on that because you didn't want to put your name on it.
I didn't want to, because it's like, okay, as a Christian, do you really want to go out and take credit for something you built?
Right.
Okay? Or do you support it? And I got convinced by somebody that I trust, who one of these days when I grow up, I want to be just like him, because he's my hero.
Who's that?
Guy's name's Stanley Schaefer. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
One of the most generous, benevolent, caring guys that I know.
How did he fight you on that one?
Well, he came to me and he said, okay, look, first off, put your name on it. From a money raising point of view, there's two kinds of people that this will inspire. The kind of people who say, wow, he could do that, maybe I could do something. Or the kind that say, if that jerk could do it, I can do more. Okay. So one of the two.
It'll still inspire people to
It'll
invest.
inspire you to do more regardless. He said, now the other piece of this, though, is if you want to, I know that influence is important to you. And I've got this mantra that says you can have influence or control, but you can't have them both. And I'm not much on
Okay,
control.
back up, because I love that. You can have influence or control, but you can't have both.
Can both.
What's the difference between influence and control? to
Well,
you?
control is where you take charge of everything and you make the decisions and you decide how it's going to be. You got the ultimate deal. Influence is when you can persuade other people to follow what you'd like to do and they do what you want to do, but you influence them to where it's their idea, their decision, they're bought in, and they help you accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Wow.
And so he said, I know influence is important to you. And to us, to Terry and I, intentional influence is important because we want to influence the culture in a positive way of the places we're involved.
Yeah.
So he said, you put your name on it, 5 years from now, they're going to remember who you are and you're going to have influence on it. If you don't put your name on it, 5 years from now, they're going to forget who wrote the check and they're going to operate the way they want to.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I thought that was really pretty smart. So we put our name on it, which I had some reservations about doing, and I'm so thrilled we did, and I'd advise anybody to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we meet now with these kids. It's a different kind of leadership. It is kind of soft skills. It's what kids don't get today. They're all on their phones. They're all social media. They're not. They don't understand vulnerability. They don't understand sharing. They don't understand being real. They don't understand being authentic. They're used to posting on Instagram and it's the best or the worst day of my life. There's never any life in between. And so we teach them what their skills are, what their strengths are, how to build on those strengths, how to build on those skills, and we create conflict.
You create conflict.
We create conflict
on purpose.
So that they learn how to handle conflict. Because all of their life, if they're going to be a good husband, a good wife, a good leader, a good business person, a person in their church, in their family, in their community, they're going to have to learn how to handle conflict. Now, we don't create confrontation. That's this.
Right.
Conflict is we're going to talk to each other with respect and understanding, and I'm going to try to put myself in your place with some empathy. You're going to try to put yourself in my place, and we can have the hardest conversations, but it doesn't make us enemies. It makes us people who are different, who have different views. And so we create conflict. So how do we do that and still do well? We have team bonding things that allow them to do things. And then we build them in the junior year. They go into groups of 5. And they work with a nonprofit, and they can choose from 1 of 10. They find out what they might. First, they have to decide when to meet. This program takes students from all 6 colleges. So you may have a nursing student with an engineer. They have very different schedules. Maybe a music major or a business major or an ag student. So they have to decide when to meet. Sometimes it's Sunday night at 11 o'clock at night, but they've got to meet once a week, okay, in addition to their class time. And then they have to pick a nonprofit. Then they have to go visit that nonprofit, and they have to figure out what they might be able to do to help them on a project. And so they're dealing with the director or whoever. Then maybe they visit with the clients of that project. It might be a homeless encampment. It might be a hope and healing. It might be the cancer society or cancer center. It might be It might be Kids Inc., which is a youth program, all kinds of programs. So they go and they maybe meet with the clients. They see, what can we do? Then they put together a project. They have to get the project approved. They have some budget to work with. And then they have to complete the project. Maybe it's a fundraiser. Maybe it's building a podcast studio. Maybe it is building online presence for them. Maybe it's
For this nonprofit.
brochures. Yeah, for the nonprofit. They're doing things the nonprofit doesn't have time to do. This last week, I kind of got a kick out of one of them. I listened to their first rough draft presentations, and one of them said, and we had a little spare time, so we went and cleaned the bathrooms. I mean, these are college kids.
For this nonprofit.
Because they just didn't have time to do it.
Yeah.
So they complete that, and then they have to do a presentation on it in front of a lot of people, so they get some public speaking benefit. In the meantime, they're learning leadership theory, and then they're learning soft skills leadership, which has to do with, how do I meet and greet? How do I be real with people? How do I persuade them to do the things we need to do? And part of the deal is, all of these kids are people who worked in group projects in high school, and they're the only kid who did it. Now they've got to learn to trust the other one, that they'll do their part, and I can just do my part, and I can trust them to do their part. That's a new experience for them. And then beyond that, maybe they got one that's not doing their part. Can I hold them accountable? So it's about conflict, resolution, and accountability. That's our holding and learning philanthropy in the first semester or first year. The second year, their senior year, they do a leadership conference where they have to come together. They have to pick a theme. Then they break into groups of 5. This time we do it based on their strengths. So we put 5 people that are very different. We'll put somebody that's relational with somebody who's a director. I mean, we're gonna, and then they have to learn to work with people that are completely different than them. And how do we get through that? And so it's conflict again, but now it's a little more educated conflict. So they've had experience and they've figured out. So each of these 5,
And they know you're doing this on purpose.
no,
Oh, they don't?
oh no, we
They just think they
tell
fluked
them-
out and got the worst
We
draft.
tell them right after the leadership conference, okay? And so they're the 5 of them have to figure out how to work together. Then the 25 have to work together, and then they do a presentation for the entire university. It's streamed to the university, and they'll have 200-300 people in attendance, and they teach leadership skills. Now we have networking events where they network with kind of movers and shakers in business. We have other things that they come to and they do. They're required to have an internship. Most kids wouldn't do it, but they're required to do it, so they do it. They're required to take a leadership segment in 9 other courses during that 2 years, where they have to have a sign-off for that. But in exchange for this, they get a leadership deal on their diploma. They get a cord. They have their own graduation ceremony just for lead kids.
Wow.
These are kids that Terry and I get to spend from 6 to 10 days a year with these kids, sometimes in class, sometimes out of class. We have them out to our house, and we have dinner with them once a year. Last week, we went to class with the juniors, and then on Saturday, we had the seniors out for just a day.
Out to your home.
Out to our home out in Lake Tanglewood.
25 at a time?
Well, the 25 didn't come because they had a senior 2-day overnight trip the 2 days before, and they got a lot of things to do on Sunday night. We're getting toward the end of the year. Just the timing didn't work. But we had 12 that came out. And they spent 8 hours just sitting around the table talking. We tried to get them out to play ping pong or pool or cards or games, or they just wanted to sit and talk.
Yeah.
We had lunch, fed them some hot dogs. They sat there, and this is from noon, about 6 o'clock at night, it says, anybody hungry? Well, yeah. So I cooked them some burgers, or they helped cook burgers, and we sat there and we had dinner, and then they stayed another hour before they left. Now, college kids don't do that.
No, they don't.
But it's interesting. Now, the fun part for me is the interactions that we get. Now, we've been doing this now for 14 years. So we've had 300 and some odd kids graduate from the program. A good number of them, not the majority, but 2 or 3 or 4 out of every class keep in contact. I think since I've been with you, I've had 2 kids who have reached out just in the last couple of days.
And they're all welcome to.
Oh yeah, no, we invite them.
You have made yourself available
Oh, absolutely.
to be a sounding board, a mentor. 10 years, 20 years later, if they come through this program, you're invested.
Absolutely. Like this
What a
one,
gift.
Like this one yesterday called and said, I want you to meet my wife. You've never met my wife. Would you come have dinner with us and meet my wife? Now he came through the program in the third year. So he's 11 years back,
Yeah.
wants me to meet his wife. We have people want to introduce me to their kids that are 4 or 5 years removed.
Mm-hmm.
There are some really great, heartwarming stories. I'll just tell you one that I think is fascinating. We had a kid named John. This is 5, 6, 7 years ago. His name was John. He was a rock star. I mean,
rock star personality.
Program. He was everything. He was a prior athlete. He was a good student, an accounting major. And when he finished his first year internship, though, after his junior year, he came to me and he said, I don't think I like this. I mean, I thought I want to be an accountant, but I'm not sure I like it. And I said, which kind of accountant are you? I think there's basically two kinds. There's a kind that's really good historical bean counters, and they can tell you everything that's happened, and they're good record keepers of it. And then there's the kind that look at where you are, and they try to figure out where you're going to go and how could they help get you there. They're two totally different skills, both important. And I said, which one were you? And he said, well, I was the historian. So maybe
the bean counter.
Yeah. So maybe you should try the other side. And so he said, well, I'll do that. Well, next summer. So close to graduation, he just kind of withdrew. Everybody else talking about what they're going to go do. They're going to graduate school. They've got a job offer. They're doing something. And John's just is quiet. So we graduate. I'm asking, where's John? Nobody knows. So in June, I called John and I said, John, where are you? Well, he's in New York. And he said, they say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And I'm in the theater industry and I'm trying the forward-looking accounting. I said, how you like it? He said, I hate it. I said, oh, you're trouble. so he said, but I'm toughing it out. He said, but I'm going to be back in Amarillo in July. Would you come have lunch with me? And I said, sure. So I went and had lunch with him. And I said, well, what's the deal, John? He said, I hate what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I said, well, what would you like to do? He said, well, I think I'd like to teach. But I said, why don't you? He said, well, I've told everybody I'm going to be in business. And I think they'd think lesser of me if I switched off and became a teacher.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a lesser profession than being in business to him.
Yeah.
And I said, why do you think that? And he said, well, I've just set this up to be in business, and I think it's important. And he said, and I grew up, my mom raised 3 of us, and we struggled all our life. And, we didn't do without, but she struggled and we struggled. And I think that's a tough way to go. And I said, well, John, I understand that. So what happened to your dad? He said, well, my dad died when I was 14 or 15, I think 15. He said, he died. And I said, oh, so what did he do before he died? And he said, well, he was a coach. I said, well, was he any good? He said, well, he's in the Texas Coaches Hall of Fame.
He was in the Hall of Fame.
He's in the Hall of Fame. So, well, he must have been pretty darn good.
Yeah, very good coach.
If you're in the Texas Hall of Fame, you're a good coach.
Yeah.
So I said, well, John, tell me about his funeral. And he got a tear in his eye, and he said, well, it's a small town, but it's probably the biggest funeral they've ever had in the town. He said the church was full. There were people standing outside. I said, really? Really? He said, yeah. I said, John, think about it. How many of those people do you think thought, he was a good guy, but he'd have been so much better if he had just been in business? Whoa. And it was sort of like the mic drop. We finished eating and he left. October came around and I called him again. I said, John, can you come have lunch with me? I don't know what part of the world you're in, but can you come have lunch with me? He said, I can't. I said, why not? He said, I got lunchroom duty.
Lunchroom duty?
So lunchroom duty. What are you doing? He said, well, I'm teaching math in Amarillo High School. and I said, well, John, what do you think about that? He said, I love it. I've never had so much fun in my life. Now, just a word here or there of encouragement they can't get from somewhere else can change their life.
Yeah.
And I probably have a half a dozen or a dozen stories that are probably more dramatic than that.
Wow.
From almost suicide to total euphoria to can't get a job to just a little bit of advice and getting the job of their life. Just people who felt like the ugly duckling who now don't think they can just participate, they think they can lead.
Yeah.
One of the really fun things when we bring people in is you got a few kids in every class who believe, why did it take you so long to recognize my talent? You got these others over here who go, I got nominated and I got in. I have no idea how, but I don't belong here.
Yeah.
By the beginning of the second year, you watch them change places.
Really?
That is so much fun.
Those who had the pride now found some humility.
They found the humility, and they understand there are other people that have talents too.
Well,
those that didn't feel. And so
I love though that
success
is not just success is not money. Success is not none of that. You could, if you're called and you're created and hardwired to be a math teacher, be the best math teacher on earth. If you're hardwired to run 100 companies, then do it as unto the Lord. But that's what success is finding your place.
It is, and all of us could find that. Sometimes if we could turn loose of what it is that's holding us back that we think we have to have.
Wow.
We have to have this. I mean, what's going to happen if I leave this? No, there's a world out there. I mean, I personally, I love living on the edge of impossible. Just not always impossible, but
yeah.
because that's where all the fun is.
Yeah.
And I think kids get in a bind sometimes. They feel like I have to know what I'm going to do by the time I'm 20. I mean, I'm going to be 78 here. I don't know what I want to do. I'm going to figure it out someday, but I haven't got it figured out yet. And so I keep looking.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
No. I love that you make yourself available to all of these young people that go to West Texas, but you're also really invested in your children and your grandchildren. And I was looking at a picture in your house here of a holiday that you took in, where is that big painting?
It's in the Highlands in England.
Highlands in England, and looked like a great holiday. I was asking you about it, and you said you do this every year. Talk about your family holiday and how you're investing in your kids and your grandkids.
Well, Terry and I have been married this month 30 years.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was married 25 years in a previous life.
Okay.
And she was married previously. And so when we got together, we did things a little unusual. Today, it seems like people live together a couple of years and they get married. We got married 2 years before we lived together because she lived 80 miles away. I lived here. I had a daughter at home. She had a son at home. And we felt like our first obligation was to our kids before we got obligated to ourselves. And once we were a family, then our obligation that changes. But they didn't ask to go through divorce, and so we felt like we owed that to our kids. So our kids were never in the same household. They never grew up together. And I had 4, she has 2. We have 6, and that's how I view it. Mm-hmm. But we had to find a way to bring them together as a family. Mm-hmm. And that's not an easy process, particularly when you're dealing with primarily grown kids. Mm-hmm. And so we decided, when I sold the gas company, I started a little private foundation. And the intent was that we were then going to give away as a charitable foundation, and we were going to spend this money and give it away where it needed to be given away. And we just invested over time. And I thought, well, maybe I could invest by including my family in that process. Mm-hmm. So we set up the program to say, okay, we're going to go away a week every year. And we're going to do family building. We're going to do team building. We're going to do financial acumen. We're going to do family finance. And we're going to work on this private foundation.
1 week every year.
1 week every year. Now, we don't do Christmas together. We don't do Thanksgiving together because everybody has their own families, and products of divorce find a lot of pressure to go, and they're all married. And so you got to do the in-laws, you got to, and you got multiple sets of families. So we will be with 1 or 2 over Christmas because we go to visit them or they come here or something prior to Christmas or maybe prior to Thanksgiving. But we set aside a week every year in the summer. And I've learned.
And it's half holiday and it's half opportunity for you to train and equip them, and it's also how are we going to give away all this money?
All of those things.
Okay.
And so we decided, okay, what we need to do is we need to set up this foundation, and we'll set some pretty tight guidelines on what they can give to. And then we'll take half of the money that we're going to give away each year, and we'll make them directors of the foundation, and they are responsible for giving away roughly half the money.
And what kind of things do you want primarily? What things are you passionate about giving to?
Well, things that help spread the gospel, or things that help individuals in need,
Okay.
and things that are trackable. So like they're not, the Red Cross is a great thing to give to, but we don't know where the money goes. It just goes into a big pool. So we want to do that with where it can make a significant difference. If it can't make a difference, we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And if it's to individuals, it has to be anonymous. So if you're going to pay,
If you're giving to an individual,
if we're
anonymous.
if we're going to pay off somebody's house, if we're going to buy them a car, if we're going to do a trip away like a wish kind of deal, something like that, it has to be anonymous. So we will do that through a third party because we have to make donations to a 501c3.
and you guys have done that sometimes.
Oh yeah, that's part of the deal. As a matter of fact, probably a third of what it is done that way. It's somebody that knows somebody that
Needs help.
has an issue that's going through some major issue. And so what I do is back into creating conflict, because I know that you can't build trust with people unless you learn how to fight together and how to resolve conflict. You can't figure out how to trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
So we began by creating some conflict.
I've never heard anyone say that, but you go to pour into people. You absolutely believe it's necessary to put them in situations where they have to deal with conflict.
Absolutely. Not confrontation, conflict.
Conflict.
And so what we do is I have them tell me what their projects that they want to do. And each family gets a project. Each family makes a proposal for a project. Now, it's evolved over time, and now it's up to, you have to have some sweat equity in a project before you can propose it. Maybe you are going to that orphanage and you're working a week a year. Maybe you are raising money for that suicide prevention program that you want to do, that you're raising money for them on the side. Maybe you're serving on the board of a drug rehab center. Maybe you're having your own fundraiser for them in addition. So you have to have some sweat equity in the program in order to make an application other than for an individual. And what I do is I get the amounts that they each want to make a proposal for, and they know roughly how much is out there, and they know there's 6 of them, so how are we going to do that? And then whatever amount they have, I cut that back a little bit.
You always give them a little less than they
I
want.
give them a little less than they want, because I want them to have to negotiate with each other. I want them to have to decide, I'm willing to give you a little bit of mine that I'm passionate about this year, and next year maybe you can give me a little bit of yours. Now
And they're allowed to do that. They can
yeah.
give up some of their budget to someone else.
Oh, yeah. Now, initially they couldn't. It was all or none. So you had to fight for your program or you weren't getting it because somebody was being left out. But we find out that some are better fighters than others, and that became a little bit unfair. So too much conflict brings confrontation, which is not what we wanted. We wanted conflict. So over time, they've found their favorite things to do and so forth. And so it's less contentious than it used to be. Now it is, we're all supporting each other in the things that they want to do.
Okay.
And we've done some interesting things. One of those that we talked about yesterday was this school in Pakistan.
Yes.
And I'll go there and then I'll go back to what we do on this family trip.
Okay.
One of the projects that we took on early was to build a school in Pakistan. It's in a 97% Muslim community, but there's a Christian community there. And in this town in Pakistan, it's in Kasur, Pakistan. Kasur, and it's aptly named. The whole city is full of sewer, open sewer.
Wow.
That beside every house, there's about a 2-foot wide by a foot deep ditch that your sewer runs into, and it goes out into the stream in the middle of town. And they insulate their houses with cow dung, and then they burn it in the wintertime, and that's their power. They have very little refrigeration, and it's a different society. But
And your
one-
whole family's been there?
no, to Pakistan, I'm the only one that's been there. Now, we've done things in Thailand and Myanmar, and most of the people in our family have been there, and they visited orphanages and things that we participated in. This particular deal is a school.
Okay.
And Pakistan it's not a particularly safe place. I've been there, but I'm not sending my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they have brick factories, they have tanneries, they sell kids,
Sell children like in the sex trade?
you can buy a baby for $10
No.
and do whatever you want to do. It's the most horrific thing on earth.
My God.
And what they do is in these towns, they have these brick factories are like company stores. They provide you a house, you charge the food to them all year, and you owe them labor back. You never get even. And so when you're a child, they provide education through 3 grades, first, second, third. At the end of the 3rd grade, unless you're paying for education, you don't get it. So what they do is that child then goes back to work in the brick factory. Now, that's at 9 years
great.
old.
9 years old.
9 or 10 years old.
Mom and dad send them to work
With them.
making bricks
With them. They're all working in the same factory.
to pay off this debt that
Pay
they
off
can
the
never
debt that
pay
they will
off.
never pay off.
Wow.
So in about, we probably have mothers that are 13. We have grandmothers that are 25, 26 years old.
Because they get raped
They can get raped, they can get abused, they
in
can get used.
the factory.
Yeah, they can get used, whatever. It's a horrible situation. So and the country's 70% illiterate. So a kid who can read can write their own ticket. The country has no safety net. It's the most entrepreneurial place on earth. They figure things out. They know how to survive. But nobody has a job. It's all barter, it's trade, it's that sort of thing.
But if you can read,
If you can
You have a
read,
job.
you can work. You can work in a store, you can work for a company, you can do things. If you can read and do a little basic math,
but you can't learn that by grade 3.
by grade 3, you just don't have
So
it down.
none of these kids can read.
No. So and the brick factories don't want them to.
No.
They want the work.
Yeah.
So by providing a school, we can change their life. Now, originally, we built this little school. It was 1st through 8th grade, and it was going to hold 92 kids. And I went over on the opening of the school, and frankly, I wasn't very proud of it. The ground floor was a gymnasium, which serves as a church. The 2nd floor had the classrooms on it, and then the upper deck was the playground because land's expensive, and that's how it was. And it wasn't, and it was pretty, it was pretty concrete and brick and pretty stark. And I'm going, this just isn't my cup of tea. So,
But you had paid for it.
yeah. So we went over and we looked at where they were going to school on their last day of school. 92 kids and about 600 square feet.
Hold on. 600 square feet.
That's a little bigger than a double car garage.
Wow.
92 kids, little desks that are about
Crammed
a foot tall. They got their legs under it. They're all in uniform. They all look really good, little bitty kids, cute as they could be. Half of that 600 feet was covered with a roof. Half of it was open air. So the benches were under the covered part. It had a fence around it, 8 foot or so, concrete, maybe a foot thick fence. No running water, no electricity. They had a curtain you could go behind to do your business. And I thought, this is horrible. But all around the wall were kids, most of them Muslim kids, but kids who were up on the wall watching that classroom. And I knew if these kids
Wow.
had an opportunity to be in that classroom, they probably would have traded everything to get it. Everything. So
Because the kids on
Pardon
the
for the
wall, they
emotions.
couldn't even come in.
they couldn't come in. So I when we opened this school for 92 people, and I'm telling a few people, because I'm really proud of the fact that these kids have a chance.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them, they go, well, why? I mean, there's millions of people there, millions of people in Pakistan. What difference does it make that you got a school for 92 kids?
Yeah.
And I thought, for those 92, it makes a difference. Okay. It's a big difference for them. So since then, we have added now grades 9 through 11, and then we've added a trade school.
Trade school.
A trade school, an 18-month trade school where they learn a trade after they get out of the 11th grade. Now, my hope is, we haven't gotten to this point yet, but my hope is that we will then ask those kids to tithe back to the school and for 5 years. And if they will do it for 5 years, after three years of doing that, the school would be self-sufficient.
Absolutely.
And I'm kind of into making things work that are self-sufficient. I don't want to write a check forever, and nobody else does either.
Right.
And so that's one of the ways to support this school. We've got now 1,300 kids.
1,300. So you
It's
built
a
a bigger
school.
building.
Much bigger buildings, yeah. So now it's one of the best schools in the country, and it's recognized all in the city. And although it's a 97% Muslim city, they don't get any problem. People are celebrating the fact that these kids are in the school,
Wow.
and so it's a huge deal.
And if they go through grade 11, now they know how to read. So
They're reading,
instantly
writing. They can go get a job.
they can get a job anywhere. But then you still give them another 18 months.
They go
Trade
to trade school. They can be entrepreneurial and do what they want to do. Maybe. Okay, so it changes their lives. I mean, education is the key to a better life, and particularly in a third world country.
Of course.
It makes so much difference. So that came out of our family meetings. Okay, so I'll go back to the family meeting program, because creating this conflict is one of the most painful things as a father I've ever done.
Creating conflict.
Oh, it is so painful because the reaction is hard.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not understanding that conflict is a good thing for them. The first meeting we had, I created the conflict because one of my kids brought something that they wanted to save Darfur.
What's Darfur?
It's a country, and it was in poverty and civil war, and you couldn't make a difference.
Yeah.
The other one wanted to invest in Brad Pitt's homes in Katrina. And I just said, we're not going to consider those two things. So what immediately happened is they joined forces, and I was the enemy. Now, thankfully, it was one from each family, okay?
Yeah.
And we had to actually even go back in a separate room and have them put little dots as to where they would put their money, because they couldn't talk in front of each other because they were afraid of the conflict. That was our first meeting. We started the second meeting.
Did they end up sending any money to Brad Pitt?
No, I wouldn't allow that. I mean, I still had veto. So that
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
the program. So then the second meeting, my daughter is making a presentation, and she is talking about an orphanage in that we're working with this missionary who did the school in Pakistan, but he also works in Myanmar and in Thailand. And most of our family has been to both of those places. So anyway, she wanted to pitch a deal, and he says, one of Terry's sons said, "How do we know that we can trust this guy?" And my daughter, who is on the emotional end of things, got immediately upset. And so he said, "I love the drama in this family." And my daughter said, "Which family? This family or this family?" Okay. And so it went downhill from there. Conflict turned into confrontation.
Yeah.
So the next year was worse. We got 3 years of pure
You're spending a
hell.
small fortune, by the way, to fly them all around. Because where are you going? These are all nice destinations.
Oh, no, my deal is they can go anywhere that Southwest flies. And I give them the budget, and they figure out how to put it together, and they spend the money. And so two of them plan the trip, they plan the activities.
How many
they
people
find
are
the
on
place.
these family holidays? Like
We're up to 29 now.
29 people once a year, anywhere Southwest flies. What are the
Well,
last?
except the last 2 years it's been Europe, and Southwest doesn't fly. One,
okay.
we went to my daughter's wedding in Capri.
Okay.
And then last year we went to England because my days are getting shorter and I wanted to do something special.
Wow.
Okay.
So to rattle off 4 or 5 of the places you've been in the last however many years.
We've been up to Kennebunkport, Maine. We've been to Manzanita in Oregon. We've been to land around Lake Austin. We've been to Costa Rica.
And just
we've been-
find a
been to
beautiful
Florida
place
twice.
where you can all just hang out for a week.
Finding a house that's big enough or houses next door to each other that'll house 29 people is a trick.
Right.
Now, when it was 20, it was easier. Not
Yeah.
easy, but easier. But as people get married and they have children, it adds on, and everybody comes. So,
Yeah.
like I say, you pay for it, they'll come.
Oh yeah, they'll come.
So they make the time to do that. And after we got through 3 years of conflict, we began to become cohesive, and it began to be a family, and it was something that we were really proud of. To give you some idea how well it was working, I got invited by BNY Mellon to go out to California to sit down with 9 other families, 10 of us together, to talk about how we did family governance and what we did with this.
Who is this? BNY?
BNY Mellon, they're the oldest bank in America.
They asked you to come and talk
They
about
asked me to come talk with these other 9 families. Now, after I found out who the families were, and I'm not going to say that on this podcast, but I would tell you that they're some of the wealthiest, most influential families in America.
Wow.
And as we're talking to them,
the fathers were there, basically?
the families were there.
Okay.
It is people who have founded some of the largest billion-dollar companies in America.
Whoa.
And at lunch, when they went around, did the introduction, and I'm Dyke from Dalhart, okay? It's like
I'm the cheese guy.
yeah. And so I caught the president of BNY Mellon, and I said, this is the bank that Benjamin Franklin, Hamilton founded in New York. It was Bank of New York originally. Okay, so the first bank, Central Bank of America at the time. So anyway, I said, what the heck am I doing here? I mean, you got the wrong guy. And he said, no, you are further along in governance than anybody that's sitting at this table, and they all need to hear it. I said, but there's a big difference. He said, no. You need to understand, while they may have 6 more zeros on the other side of the decimal point than you do, it's just a matter of where the decimal point goes. We're all in the same boat.
Wow.
And I went, wow. So I was pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
Until COVID came along. And COVID destroyed our family relationship.
Really?
Destroyed it. We've got
COVID wrecked a lot of people's families.
Kids and grandkids took very polar opposite positions. And you could say the smallest thing and have everybody offended. Where we spent 2 years where one family wasn't even talking, the other family wasn't talking to them, and they weren't talking to them. We just about got over COVID, and then we had a polarizing election, which was equally difficult.
So you have like Trump supporters and Trump haters on.
I got both sides.
Okay.
I've got people who post and say, if you voted this way, we will never talk to you again, family or not.
Wow.
It is absolutely horrendous. So I'm telling you, you can have the best, you can have the worst. Now, my hope is that this last trip to England it wasn't perfect, but it was certainly better. And my hope is that the next one and the next one will unify us as a family, and they will understand that family really is more important than these things that you frankly can't do anything about anyway. It doesn't matter what the news says or whatever. You're fighting over somebody that you've never met, you never will meet, and really what they've done really has very little to affect you personally. So why just because you disagree does not make you my enemy.
Yeah.
And we're going to work on that, intentionally work on that. But when we go on these trips, we have a very open discussion about the ways we want to distribute money. And we do that down to a young age. If you are 12 years old, you're allowed to make microloans. There's a fund for you to do these.
Microloans,
$25, $50, $100 through a microloan company. That we've been doing this for 15 years. So these people have grown out and their kids are now doing it. If you are 18, you're allowed to make your own proposal. It's got a limited amount of money. You can make your proposal, I think, to $1,000. And they find things they're passionate about for $1,000. Now, when they get to be 21, they can then make a full-blown proposal for anything they want. We every family has a designated spot. But if people in the family want to do something, they can do something. When we went to England, 3 of our grandkids, 3 of the youngest ones, put together a deal to drill a water well in somewhere in Africa, because somebody came to their school and talked to them about this water well program, and they got behind it. They made a presentation. I mean, the oldest one's like 10, and they made a presentation on how they could do this water well deal, and that they were going to raise money on the side to help with it, and they would have a report back this year, and they would have film of it to show us what happened. So getting them involved and teaching them to be givers and to understand that joy in life is what you give, not what you get. When they get that figured out, they'll be better human beings because of it. And that's our goal family-wise.
Wow. That's wild. How did things go with those 9 families in your meetings with them?
The meetings went really well. What we understood is that we all had similar problems.
Yeah.
Frankly, theirs were worse than mine, quite a lot worse. Now, at that point, our deal was going pretty smooth. But even at our worst, it's better than where they were. I mean, they've got kids that are drug addicts, kids that are estranged from them, that they can't talk to.
Yeah.
Kids that hate each other, entitlement. And that is, when you have a certain amount of wealth, the biggest issue you got with your kids is, what do you tell them and what do you give them and how do you do that? I have learned that in our business, we operate our business like capitalists. Okay? We operate our families like socialists. It's like, okay, the one who needs the most, we help the most. It's very counterproductive. It is enabling. It's wrong. I have not met a family that doesn't do that. But there's got to be a way to reward those who do best biblically. You reward those that do best, and those that don't suffer some consequence for that. We don't do that as a family for the most part. Now, I did have a situation with one of my grandsons who has had a difficult time in life. He hasn't made great choices. He's a really slow starter. He just hasn't wanted to kick into gear. And it seems like there's a black cloud over him, and anything can go wrong does. One bad choice leads to another bad choice, leads to another bad choice. And I made a deal with him. He said, okay, I need to work, but I can't make enough money to do what I want to do. And he has a child. And he said, I've got to provide daycare, and the daycare is going to cost me as much as I'm going to make in the work. I mean, it costs me $15 an hour for daycare, and I'm going to make about $18 an hour working over here. It won't work. I can just barely pay for the gas. So let me tell you what I'm willing to do for you, okay? And this is between you and I. I'm saying that publicly, but this is between you and I, not your mom, not your dad, not your brothers, sisters, no aunts, uncles. I'm going to make this deal with you. I'll pay for your daycare if you get the job. And in addition, for every dollar you make, you give me a copy of your pay, I'll give you 50%. So if you make $1, I'll give you 50 cents more. So I'll pay for the daycare. You keep your $18. Now it's $27. I want to make it worthwhile to work. All of a sudden, overtime's a great idea for him. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I wanted him to do was to get the rhythm of work.
Yeah.
Get used to going to work every day, showing up, doing the right thing. You can't just go out and get a job. You need that rhythm to get to where you need to be to make it work. And I wanted him to get the rhythm. And I said, I'll do that for 90 days. At the end of 90 days, you're on your own. You work all you can work in these 90 days, make all you want to make, and I will support you 50% above. I'm not paying you for not working. I'm going to reward you more for working. And just an experiment to kind of see if capitalism will work with our family. And it does.
He did. He dialed right in.
He dialed into overtime is a good thing. So I this family deal is always an experiment.
Yeah.
You have jobs, you have businesses, you have employees, but family is the most important thing you have. And it seems like we have the least training, we have the least instruction, we have the least guidance, and most of us have screwed it up somewhere, some way. and we need to figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And that's one of my primary things at this moment is to I can't say finish because you will never finish,
Yeah.
but at least improve the situation.
Well, and when you have been blessed financially, it's hard not to raise entitled children. And so even putting them in a room and saying, how can we give? How can we serve? How can we give back is probably one of the greatest gifts that you could ever give to kids who might have a tendency toward being entitled, and that's amazing.
Well, I've found that they, almost all of them, have become more philanthropic in their lives.
Yeah.
They give. They give to the things they want to give to of their own money.
Right.
Which is, I figured if they could give away mine, maybe they'd learn to give away theirs, and they did.
And they
now,
have.
the family dynamic that's difficult, if you have a certain level of wealth, is what do you tell them, and when do you allow them to have some of it? If you withhold it forever, they wind up being like a lottery winner, and they just go through it when they get it.
Yeah.
If you give it to them too much too early, they become entitled and they won't go do it. I've tried to set up an in-between. Each of them have trusts that are generation skipping trusts that they're entitled to when they're 55 years old. They get the income off of those trusts annually. It's not enough for them to live. It's enough to really improve their life.
Right.
Okay, but it's not going to support them. I want them to make their own mark. By the time they're 55, they either will have made their mark or they won't have.
Right.
And so I'm not withholding it forever, but they need to know that you're not getting anything till then. So you need to make that mark. You need to make it. But at some point, you're safe and you're secure and you're going to be in good shape. But in the meantime, you better support yourself. I'm going to help you some with the income off of these trusts. Now, I try to see that not too much is invested in income producing. Mm-hmm. It's in growth. So there is a level of income. And I guess there's a certain amount of control in that. And I'm telling you, I want influence more than control. But there are some things you got to control. Mm-hmm. And one of those is I can't control what they do with it when they get it. I can influence I can control how much they get, and then hopefully influence how they move forward with it. Mm-hmm. But I've got a family. I've got 3 consumers and I've got 3 producers. Mm-hmm. And they live different lives. Mm-hmm. And what they need and what they want are very different. And what I've had to step back and realize, it's not my job to control their deal. It's not my job to run their life. It's my job to influence them best I can, and particularly if they ask, which is less often than you would think. But if they ask, I'm there to help. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of let them. Mm-hmm. It's your deal, you let it. And if I give them the money, there are no strings attached to it. It's a gift. It's not you do this and I will do that. I'm not in that zone.
I want to ask you a couple of questions that might lead to a little bit of more of a supernatural stories, because I know you have a few. But before I totally leave this section, I want to ask about that place in India. Right. How many students now?
Pakistan.
Pakistan. How many students?
There's 1,300 students in the 2 schools that we have there now.
Yeah. People, what does it cost to put one of those kids?
$480 a year is 100% all cost, all in, everything on a student. That's uniforms, books, a bit of a Christmas present, the teachers, the food they get, everything. $480.
So that's $40 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid who might work in a brick factory his whole life, $40 a month, and I can make sure this kid learns not only how to read, but he's going to get a trade if he wants. It's an absolute transformed life, 100% chance. It's $40, and what is that? That's a 10-year investment. If I carried one kid,
if you went all the way through,
it's all the way through. It's from grade 1 to it's about 12 years.
Yeah, and we do a sponsorship program for this 480, and it is the most integrity-driven program, the missionary that we work with, which is Todd Powers with Empower International.
Empower
International, EMPOWER.
Okay.
It took forever for him to say, I'm willing to do a sponsorship program. And it did because he's seen so many that don't have integrity. On this, when you pick a child, it's your child. You get their first name, not their last, because we're not putting you into the trafficking program, the kid and that possibility. You can write them. You can send things to them.
They'll write back.
You hear from them.
Send them a Christmas gift.
Whatever you want. It's your responsibility. And you save their life for $480 a month. I mean, a year. $480 a year.
Wow.
It's a neat opportunity.
What's the website if I want to go on and sponsor one?
It's empowerinternational.com.
Empowerinternational.com. Right.
And if it turns out that's not the website, because
Google it, Empower International.
You Google that, you'll get that.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there's two avenues here. One is the 100% Christian avenue. The other is Let's Rescue the Children avenue.
Yeah.
So there's two websites out there because there are two different kind of people who give.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to save children.
Everybody. Yeah.
Not everybody wants to be involved in the gospel.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
But I love that, and I love that even in an area. What did you say? It's 90% Muslim area.
97%.
97%. But in your school, everyone who goes to that school, they don't have to be a Christian, but they do got to come to church.
They do.
Yeah, and their parents come too.
Their parents have to.
Wow.
At least a parent.
A parent comes to the church.
When I was in the.
Do you see a lot of Muslims coming?
When I was in the school, I asked. This is the opening day of the school. All the parents are there. 92 sets of parents, and the people who were in the school at that point were all Christian. Okay, so I just asked the question: how many of you became a Christian after you were 25 years old? And over a third of the people raised their hand. Now, you're born Muslim or you're born Christian.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a lot of evangelism. So they had to come to Jesus somewhere.
Yeah.
And they did it through their kids.
Yeah. Well, and every mother on earth, any mom who wants to see their kid rescued from a life of slavery and to be a winner in life. What an opportunity for their kid to be in that school. Oh yeah, I'd go to church every week, and they end up hearing the gospel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It winds up being all Christian when you're done.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's where you wind up.
Next question I want to ask you is about, and it was my friend Dan, who is a good friend of yours. And I was saying, questions to ask Dyke Rogers. He's like, Steve, gotta ask him about the 3 prophecy story. I'm like, the what? He's like, the 3 prophecy story. I'm like, okay, I'll ask him the 3 prophecy story. Tell me the 3 prophecy story.
Well, most of my life, almost everything that's happened to me that's been big has come through a prophecy of one kind or another.
But you don't go around chasing prophets.
I am the most cynical, skeptical, prophetic receiver in the world.
So you're not at all the prophetic gathering?
I've never been to a prophetic gathering because, frankly, I
love those things.
I know. Yeah. Sometimes I think there's more hokey doke than real.
Yeah, there is.
Some are real. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know they're real because it's how I got in my first business. It's how a whole host of things have happened to me over time. But this is the most bizarre one, and it is the most. It's. I would say it's impossible. If it weren't.
Come on.
I was in Dalhart, and a lady from Philadelphia, an African-American lady, was invited down to meet with some people, to do some things, and they were going to build a church there. And there hadn't been a church built in that part of Philadelphia. Hadn't been a building in that part of Philadelphia in probably 50 years, a building permit of any size. She wanted to build a church, and my friend was going to help her raise the money to finance this church. And so he invited me to come to this little gathering. And so I went. And turns out that she's a very prophetic lady, and she prophesied over a couple of people. And it was, that what I would call the typical, God loves you and life's going to be good.
Yeah. And coming into a new season.
Yeah.
Something's coming. Something's coming.
So she came over to me and she laid hands on me and she did this unbelievable kind of prophecy. And I started laughing while she was doing it.
Because it was very specific.
Oh, it was very specific, and it was impossible.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, look, I'm a nobody who lives in the middle of nowhere. This is not possible. You got the wrong person.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't even put it on the shelf. I just dismissed it. So about a year later, I'm in Philadelphia for this opening of this lady's church, and I'd helped with a little bit with the building of it. So I went up.
You helped pay for it.
Yeah. My wife and I went up, and they had, maybe 100 people, 120 people in the room. And the guy that was doing the dedication service was a guy from Houston. I can't tell you who he was. He was a policeman, but he was a prophet. And he gets up and he does about a 5-minute sermon. And then he looked over. I'm sitting on the front row over here in the corner. And he just walked over to me and he laid his hand on my head. And he said almost word for word what the lady had said in Dalhart.
A year earlier.
Yeah. And so my first thought is she told him.
Yeah, because
Okay.
they know each other.
They know each other.
Yeah.
So she told him. But she was so wrong the first time, he's so wrong the second time.
And would she even remember what she said again?
I doubt it. I laughed. I mean, I didn't laugh, but I didn't take it for real because it was so impossible.
Right.
So Terry and I got invited to go out to California to this all African American event, which was an amazing event. It was a black tie kind of thing, more bling and glitz than I'd ever seen in my life. And we were asked because I was involved with a number of nonprofits and they wanted some help with their nonprofit program. They were setting up a deal with dozens of nonprofits. They were teaching people how to be nonprofits that were non-government. That you couldn't take any money from the government on these nonprofits. Mm-hmm. And I was really impressed by that in that community. Okay, because I had certain preconceived ideas of how everybody looked for money in that community. Okay, and so I went out, and the guy asked me if I would speak at his church, and I said no. Listen, I am not the brightest guy in town, but I know I am not speaking in an African American church. I'll put you all to sleep because they know how to preach.
Yeah, black preacher. Yeah, you got to have some energy and some fire.
I may be okay teaching, but I am not a preacher. So I said, no, I won't do that, but I'll come. So I came, and they had a lady who was, I think at the time was the president of the California Bar Association, African American lady, who we became friends with later. I invited her. She came to our church and preached, and she could turn it on.
Yeah.
She's in the middle of this, fireball sermon, and she's everywhere, this alliteration, that alliteration. And she stopped and she said, "You come here." And I look around and I don't see many yous. There's 2 white people in the whole congregation, and it seemed to be pretty specific. Okay. So I go up and she says to me something. She says, "The Lord finds no guile in you." Now, I didn't know what guile was, so I wasn't real sure what that meant. Since then, I'm really honored to have heard that. Okay?
Yeah.
But I didn't know it at the time. And then she began with this prophecy, almost word for word what the other 2 prophecies had been. Very specific.
But this woman doesn't even know them.
Doesn't know them. We're 3,000 miles apart. She doesn't know them. She doesn't know me. She's never met me. She doesn't know who I am. She doesn't know how impossible this prophecy is, or she wouldn't have had the guts to say it. Okay? Yeah. And here was the prophecy. She said, "You have been called to the nations. You will deal with presidents and prime ministers. You'll have the opportunity to speak to hundreds, thousands, even 10,000 people. And you'll have the opportunity to change the destiny of a nation."
A nation.
I said, "God, this is 3 times. I'm willing, but this is impossible without you because I don't even know somebody from another nation. I do not know a person from another nation. I have spoken to a couple of presidents, but I don't know any presidents. I've never spoken to a prime minister, and I don't know one. And I don't know what nation you could possibly be talking about. I'm willing, but this is impossible." So I'm not going to try to make this happen.
No, you can't make that happen.
You want to make it happen? Great. Like I said earlier, I'm pretty good at some things. I'm not that good. Okay. It didn't happen unless you do it. And then I just put it on the shelf from there and said, okay.
But after the third person said this exact prophecy, now you are very aware of the fact God is talking.
This is God talking. I have no question about it. I mean, it's impossible to have three people
It is impossible.
who did it. It's
Statistically
impossible. This is God talking.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, God.
Especially when they're pulling you out of the crowd.
Yeah. I said, God, I don't know why you'd pick me for this. I mean, I am the most unlikely person I can think of in the world. Okay. But if you want to do it, I'm okay. You've picked some pretty unlikely people over time. Okay?
Yeah.
At least from my point of view. So I didn't do anything about it.
So how did it play out?
Well, the first piece of it on the speaking to people in the nations, or speaking to people in nations, I ran into a guy named John Kelly.
John Kelly. I'm going to do a podcast with him one day.
John Kelly.
He's got some stories.
He was the convener of the International Coalition of Apostolic Leaders, which I'd never heard of. But I got introduced to him. We were looking for a pastor for our church, and this friend of mine said, I know him, and he's got a lot of people in his network. He'll probably be able to recommend somebody. So I went and I met with him, and he says to me, he said, well, I'd probably be better if I just came to your church and preached, and then I could kind of see what kind of pastor I think you need. And I said, okay, when are you available? And he said, well, I'm traveling a lot. I'm really only available a couple of weeks this year. One of those is this Sunday. And I said, sounds good to me. Just come on, we'll make this work. So he came up and he preached, did a great job. And I'm going to take him back to the airport. We're going to spend the night at my house that's closer to Amarillo on the lake. And then I'm taking him to the airport early the next morning. Now, at my house, it's clear as a bell. And it's only about 8 miles, 8 miles as a crow flies across to the airport. But the airport was fogged in. Now, if you're familiar with Amarillo, there isn't any fog because there's no humidity. So airports don't get fogged in. I could probably pick half a dozen days in the decade that it's been had fog for a few hours. But it was fogged in. And as it turned out, it was fogged in for 2 days.
2 days.
So I spent
He couldn't fly out for 2 days.
Fly out. So we spent 2 days getting to know each other real well. And what a privilege. But
you take him to that smokehouse?
I didn't.
No.
And so he left. And a week or two later, he called me and he said, I'm putting this deal together, this kind of speakers bureau of sorts out of the International Coalition of Apostolic Advisors or leaders. And what I'd like to do is I'd like you to come down and just listen to the pitch, see what you think. And I'm thinking, this could be the first part of that prophecy.
Yeah.
Maybe I could speak to somebody. God, maybe you're doing something.
Because you've never been a speaker. You've never been a preacher.
I've never spoken to 300 people in my life. Preacher is the furthest thing from me. I'm not that. I'm okay teaching one-on-one.
Yeah.
Not a speaker. So I go down and we spend the day, but I have to leave early. Everybody else is staying the next morning, but I have to leave early. And there are 12 people there. They're supposed to have a couple other people, a person from Bolivia and somebody from South Africa, and they had issues with their passports or visas or flights, and they didn't make it. And so John presents his program, and then they go around to see what everybody thinks. And I'm thinking, somebody will think what I'm thinking.
Because you definitely have an opinion about
an opinion. Okay? But I don't want to give my opinion because I know it's fixing to kill that prophecy on whether or not I'm going to be able to speak. I don't want to kill it. So it goes around 11 people. Everybody loves it. This is wonderful.
Everybody loves John's plan.
Oh, yeah. They all loved it.
But you don't.
I am thinking, I do not want to be the turd in the punch bowl.
The turd in the punch bowl.
I'm sorry, but that's the best description I could give it.
Is that a Texas slogan?
Yeah, sort of. I don't want to be that one, okay?
Yeah.
So but it comes to me, and I'm going, no, I'm going to tell him. So I told him my opinion, and it was a little different than his, and it really threw cold water on the program. Not what he wanted to do, just how he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a difference between elite and elitist, and I kind of thought this sounded pretty elitist. And I'm thinking, you got a jillion members in your organization, and you're going to make this group and who are tangential to your organization because they're business people. They're not your prophets and your apostles and your pastors, and you're going to make them special in some way. I mean, this is not going to work.
No.
So everybody has an ego, and you don't want to bruise everybody's ego.
Yeah.
You can be as Christian as you want. You got an ego.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of them do, other than you.
Other than me, yeah. Most people have an ego.
Other than you. So I leave. I have to get up and I have to leave. And I'm going, well, I'll never hear from him again first. And Lord, you're going to have to figure out some other way to handle this prophecy. So he calls me back in a couple of days. And he said, I want you to be part of this deal. And I want you to be more involved than that, but I want you to be part of this deal. And I'm going, I'm not a member of your group. He said, I can handle that. Don't worry about that. Okay. I can handle that, but I want you to be on this team. And so after a little bit of discussion, I said, okay, I'll do that. And so shortly after, maybe a month to 6 weeks, it was a trip to Brazil, to Sao Paulo. And he said, I want you to come with me. Now, I wasn't prepared to speak. I just was
He
prepared
wants you to come to Brazil.
Yeah, huh?
He wants you to come with him to Brazil.
First time to Brazil, first time really in South America. And so I go, and up on the platform the first night, there's 9,800 or about 7,500 people the first night. And it's in an MMA ring, and it's about 70% guys.
MMA, mixed martial arts.
Yeah. And this pastor has like 3 national champions, and he holds fights there, and then he does the gospel.
This pastor, he'll show a big fight.
Guys come, okay? No, he sponsors the fight.
Okay, so thousands of people come, they watch a fight, and then you preach the gospel.
Then they get the gospel.
Nice.
And they are very demonstrative, very worship-oriented, and you're up on this platform in the center of it, where the ring was, and I'm watching, and I'm somewhat in awe, and it's just a big crowd. And they did a good job, and I was proud of them.
And you're just there to cheer on John
absolutely.
Kelly.
Yeah. So the next day, it's about 2:00, and John says to me, well, Dyke, you're going to speak tonight for about 25 minutes. I went, I'm really not prepared to do that. What are we going to talk about? He said, you'll figure it out.
Torture.
Yeah. So
you 10,000 people, you've never spoke. Just say something for 25 minutes.
Yeah. I've never spoken to 300 people. To say it's terrifying, to look out at 3 decks of people, the floor and 2 decks above in the round.
And he's not telling you what to talk about.
No idea. So, I'm not that prayed up. Okay. So it's like, okay, I guess I got to do something. So I get my mini iPad out, and I began to type out some scriptures to try to put something together. I think it needs to be something spiritual. You got to do that.
Yeah, of course.
Should
have a Bible verse if you want it to be official.
Yeah, I got to do that. So I type out some, and then but I haven't even put them together. And then I think, I'm through an interpreter. I probably got 20 minutes worth of this right here. I'm going to have to cut this back. I need to delete something. Well, when I pushed delete, I deleted everything.
No.
It's 4:00 now, and we're going on at 7:30. I got nothing. So I decided the only thing to do is take a nap. But I'm going to have to relax a little bit before this happens. And God will just give me something, I'm sure. Right?
Trust God.
It
works in business. You make money that way.
He gives me something to work on like that on the platform. So I get with the interpreter, who had become a friend, who really is good. And I said to him, look, I open my mouth. If nothing comes out, you make it up. It's okay with me.
Make it up.
You just make it up. What you got to say is probably better than what I got to say anyway. So, and they don't understand my piece of the English. So you just put it out there in Portuguese and we'll all be good. And he laughs a little bit and he said, it'll be fine. So I go up, I walk up to the front to the microphone, and frankly, I have not one word to say. I got nothing. So I kind of made it up.
And there's 10,000 people.
9,800, not quite 10,000.
Wow.
It's close. 7,500 the night before, 9,800 in this field. They're packed to the gills. I give the worst talk in the history of ICAL, before or after. And that's not modest. That is, to say it's the worst is a compliment. It was worse than the worst. And I think John was thinking, what in the world have I done? He says nothing when I finish.
So what did you do? You just rambled?
I kind of rambled. I was a semi-testimonies. I don't really remember what it was, but I just know how bad it was. I know how bad I felt when it was over. He said nothing. Okay.
Not a compliment, not a nothing.
Not a it'll be better next time, not it's okay, not you did good. Nothing. He didn't have to. It was bad.
He's not going to lie to you.
No, I'm a bit of a self-evaluator, and it was bad. So
That's hilarious.
the next day we go to another place, and they've got maybe 900 people. And he says, "Well, you talk tonight, but let's do 5 minutes."
he cut you back to 5 minutes.
And I'm surprised that I got 5 minutes. But it was like talking to people in my living room. After seeing that many people, 900 people was a nothing burger. And so my 5 minutes was okay.
It was
okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay. And the next night we had 750 people, and the Holy Spirit gave me something, and it came to life, and it was good. And he said, "Where have you been? Where have you been?"
Finally.
I said, "Well, I mean, I'm just kind of working my way through." But after the first night, I have to confess, God and I had a pretty good talk.
You did.
It was like, okay, I'm here from this prophecy. I mean, you almost put 10,000 people in the way first day.
Yeah.
Why would you bring me here and then just let me humiliate myself?
Yeah.
Why would you embarrass me? Not you embarrass me. Why would you allow me to embarrass myself to the level that I've embarrassed myself? And what I heard is, it's not about you. Get over it. That made the next few nights a lot easier.
Didn't you know that God is really nice and he's compassionate and he would never say something so harsh?
Well, I didn't take it harsh. I took it like,
It's not about you. Get over it.
Yeah, it was kind of like, okay, you're right. It's not about me. I need to get over this. If I do good, I do good. I do bad, I do bad. I'm here on this mission that I think is to work with you.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're here to hurt me. And I'm just going to have to learn this. I'm going to have to come prepared. I'm not going to be able to wing it every time.
No.
So I mean, I learned something, and we finished the deal, and it was a good week and had a lot of good interaction. It was fun, and learned a lot and touched a lot of people. It was neat. So now I've got you're talking in front of hundreds and thousands, and I've had dozens of opportunities since to talk to hundreds, and several opportunities to talk to thousands.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt very comfortable doing it. I feel like it's what I was called to do. I'm good with it. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know how good it is, but I'm good with it. So that piece is out of the way. So then I'm involved in this deal where I was a victim of a Ponzi scheme. Now, I told this story in southern Brazil a couple of years later, and the interpreter got it wrong, and he thought I was involved in the Ponzi scheme. And the people afterwards wanted to know how much time I spent in prison. So I want to get this right here. I was the victim.
You didn't plan it.
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, you invested in something bad.
I loaned money to a guy that spent it badly.
Yeah.
But he was involved in the country of Belize.
And was this to the tune of millions?
My deal was like $1.5 million.
Okay.
His deal, I mean, he had over $200 million he scammed. 24.6 million from the group of people that were involved in this one venture.
And did he go to prison?
Yeah. He got out in December.
Of this year?
Yeah. I'm the only person who testified against him.
Wow.
He got 7.5 years and got a little bit off for good behavior. He should have got 15, but he got 7.5.
Wow.
Total sociopath, I mean, the guy is a born criminal.
Wow.
But
he duped you, eh? Was he just so convincing?
Well, I was recommended by a friend.
Okay.
And I trusted the friend. And I checked his story. He had a takeout letter from another loan company, an infrastructure major bank out of Panama, that was going to loan him the money as soon as he met certain criteria. And I put my money in based on this takeout letter, and it was a great return. Too good to be true. That's why I went up and saw him in person in New York, is because it was too good to be true. But he had a good explanation, and I checked out the takeout letter, and it was all going to be good. Going to be paid back in 45 days. I wasn't. So a year and a half later, he gets indicted and by the Southern District of New York, and so I have an attorney from New York calls me and says, "Hey, if you'll hire me for 10% of what you put in, 150 grand, I'll find out what he has in Belize, and maybe you can attach some of that because the government has everything in this country attached. And my experience with lawyers wasn't quite that he was going to be Mr. Go-Getter, so I said, I'll go to Belize. Now, first thing I had to do is find out where Belize was, because I thought it was an island. Okay.
Yeah.
Turns out it's a country, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure this is not the nation I'm going to affect because I don't even know where it is. Okay?
Yeah.
So I decide I can just go to Belize for that. I'll figure this out. So I figure out where these guys' investment is. He's supposed to have a partner down there. So I go to Belize and I meet the guy that's supposed to be his partner. And after a lot of yelling and screaming and so forth on his part, he figured out I wasn't there to destroy him. I wasn't part of this guy's group. This guy's destroyed him too.
Right.
And so I said, just show me what you have here. So he gave me the whole deal, and there was a lot of stuff there. Most of it undeveloped and non-productive and not making any money on it, but a lot of assets. And so I'd already gone to an attorney in Belize. I'd already found out that nobody was going to hold him accountable because he had been defrauded too. Mm-hmm. And his personal guarantee was no good because it really wasn't his personal guarantee. It was a Xerox copy, so forth. So I go to, and part of what he's showing me, I said, well, look, if I can get rid of, what's your pain point? And he said, well, my pain point is I got a bunch of people, I don't know who they are, who are going to sue me. I've already got through this one lawsuit. I'm in the real estate business. I'm being just tormented in social media. I'm going to be broke. I'll win every lawsuit, but I don't have the money or the time. I need to get rid of these people who are suing me. So I said, well, if I can get rid of all of them, what's it worth to you? How are we going to get our money back, me and these people? And he said, well, why don't I give you this 1,200 acres here that's got 2.5 miles of beachfront on it?
2.5 miles of beach.
2.5
That's
miles
a
of
beautiful beach.
He said, well, it could be.
Belize is.
Yeah, Belize is beautiful. So, but it was all woods.
Oh.
And he said, how about I give you this? And I said, well, I don't want that, but I'll take half of it. He said, well, why would you take half? I said, well, you're the developer. I'm not. Mm-hmm. I mean, my grandkids will be old and this will still be woods. Mm-hmm. I can find the money. You can develop it and we can make this work. So I said, the way I look at this.
You didn't want to lose him.
Yeah. I said, you got a lemon. I've got a lemon. If we put those together, we might get a half a watermelon, which is a lot sweeter. Okay.
Yeah.
You may only have half that watermelon, but I got half. Okay.
Yeah.
So that it's going to work. And so he said, I'll do that, of course. And I said, but I don't think that's going to be enough. And he said, what do you mean it's not enough? I said, well, I want half of this unfinished airport. And he said, and there was an airport there that's partially built. It's 3/4 built.
And he owned it?
He and the other guy owned it. And so I said, I want half of that. And he said, I mean, I won't do that. That's worth millions and millions of dollars. I said, I got that. He said, why would I do that? I said, well, you got a lemon. I got a lemon. Let's make another watermelon here. Okay. You have half that watermelon. And he said, okay, I'll do that. So so now I've got to get rid of the people who are going to sue him. And so I first have to find them. And they're in numerous countries: Ecuador, Russia, China, England, Sweden, 16 states. I locate them all. And then I have a phone call with them, a Zoom.
All together or one at a time?
1 to 5 at a time.
Okay.
And I call them. I say, look, here's the deal. We can put together this deal and you can have an interest in the new property. It's going to cost you some extra money because you're going to pay a little bit for us to get the taxes cleared and all this sort of thing. So you've been scammed and I'm asking for more money. So it could be a scam, but it's not. So are you willing to invest this, but you have to drop this guy? And I'm telling you, you're not going to get anything from him anyway. But if you'll release him, you can, still go against the primary culprit. You can take your write-off as a Ponzi scheme loss because it's a loss. But if you'll invest a little bit of money, you can have an interest in this deal in Belize. And their first question was always the same. Well, I mean, what do you do? So, well, I do a lot of things. So how many airports have you built? Thought about it. I go, well, counting this one. But it's not rocket science. We'll figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
And somehow or other, all of them except one bought in.
Really?
Yeah. 41, I got 40. One wouldn't buy in. And so the guy said, okay, I'll give it to you. We can't do anything about the one. Now, what we didn't know is that the one was joining forces with the crook. And he financed the crook to sue me and him over the idea of this airport. Okay. And so he wanted all the property back. And so he sued. And the Belizean system, while it is English law, it is, let's just say it might have a glitch or two in the corruption zone. Okay.
Maybe just one or two.
One or two. And so as it turns out, my attorney is the ex-prime minister, so I'm dealing with him. I dealt with him when he was the prime minister. He made me a promise that he went back on, or I already would have had it built.
Yeah.
Then he became my lawyer because I didn't have any other choice. So now I'm dealing with a prime minister on a lot of levels. I'm dealing with the new prime minister, which hadn't worked out really well yet. So I've dealt with prime ministers.
Yeah.
And I've talked to thousands of people. I haven't changed the destiny of a nation.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to Dalhart and watch what happened here on economic development, and I see how it's done.
Yeah.
I know how it's done, and it's not daunting. I know how to change the economic future of that nation.
Yeah.
With a little bit of cooperation, it's going to happen. And with God saying it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay? So in the end, I wound up settling the lawsuit with the guy that's the other guy, and I've got to pay him quite a bit of money to make this work. And I have clear titled everything, and I'm ready to move forward to build the airport. And then the government put the hitch in it and said, you can't do it. And in the last week, we're bringing that to a head.
This last week?
Last week, yeah. Actually, it was on Monday, the day that I picked you up.
Yeah.
I have now a clear path to how I'm going to build the airport. Building that airport is going to lead to $8 billion worth of development in Belize over the next 10 years.
Wow.
$1.5 billion of that's already identified. $8 billion. It will change the GDP of the country by 76% over 10 years. It will raise the standard of living. Belize has a 65% poverty rate, about 25% middle class, the rest are wealthy. The wealthy will stay there. But we can change the poverty rate between the middle class and the poor and make them change hands where you're 25% poverty and 65% middle class based on their economy.
Wow.
They make $2.50 an hour US as the prevailing wage. But electricity is 39 cents. Here I pay 9. Okay? Gasoline is $7.50. Diesel $7.50 US.
Wow.
Here, now we're paying 4, but we were paying 2.5.
Yeah.
We can make them have a livable wage by training them to do the things we want to do. We will. This development will wind up taking 8,000 people full-time, either in construction or 8,000 people in hospitality when it's done.
And the reason being...
That's enough to change the whole trajectory of a nation that only has 400,000 people.
Because having the airport, because the nearest airport is how far away?
Well, it's only about 80 miles, but it's 2.5 hours by road.
Right.
Or it's a puddle jump plane that costs as much as it costs to go from Dallas to Belize.
So this airport would create a whole new opportunity for
hotels, private homes, branded residences, adventure tours,
resorts.
Airbnb setup, golf course, a medical facility, a hospitality school, an adventure park, people who do landscaping, people who do pool maintenance, people who do rental cars, people who lead tours, people who work in the airport, people who work in the restaurants, the bars, the grocery store, the dry cleaning place, all the things that come with the economy. The airport is the essential piece. It's not the piece that makes money. Mm-hmm. It's the essential piece to have it happen, because You can't build an infrastructure more than 25 minutes from an airport. People will not invest in homes or luxury hotels. So you have to get within 25 minutes. My airport is within 25 minutes of 90% of the developable area in the country of Belize.
Wow.
So if the government will get out of the way, it's going to be a new world. And Belize is the perfect place for tourism and secondary living. They speak English. Their money's tied directly to the U.S. dollar. They have British court. They have land titles. You can do everything there that you can do here, except for the culture of corruption that keeps everything from happening.
Wow.
Now, they don't consider corruption. So when I say this, I would offend all of them by saying this.
Yeah.
They don't think it's corruption. They think it's a way of life.
Wow. Unbelievable. A nation transformed.
So what I have an opportunity to do, and I think an obligation to do, a responsibility and a legacy to do, and something that is really worth living for, is if somebody from nowhere, who really is a nobody, who doesn't know somebody in another nation, can get a prophetic word and see it fulfilled on the first two pieces, it's pretty obvious that the third one's going to happen. And if that could happen with me, that could happen with anybody who's listening.
Absolutely.
They just need to be open to it.
Yeah.
It's humbling.
When I look at your life, and probably should put a cap on this one, bring this to a close. But when I look at your life, and really anybody, some of the people that I meet, I've had the privilege of meeting phenomenal people. Like even some of the podcasts, I pitch myself all the time at some of the high achievers that I get to meet. And I'm always asking, because sometimes when I ask them, why do you think God's so good to you? Why do you think God has blessed you? Why do you think God trusts you? And I don't even know if most high achievers even always know why. Usually they kind of but when I look at you and I think, why does God trust you so much? And the scripture that keeps coming up in me, and I see the kids that you're investing in. I see just how approachable you are, even for you to just make all of this time for me. But the scripture that keeps popping up in me is Proverbs 11:25. He who refreshes others will himself be refreshed. Wow. And this that you would, even with this region, even this area of Dalhart, I mean, you dove into this not knowing, you didn't even know you're going to be the realtor who's going to sell all this land. So it was really about investing in others and refreshing in others. And what you're doing there in Belize, it's like you actually care about transforming regions. And I just think you're fun, you're refreshing. And even the time that I've had with you, I was called my wife last night and I was like, Kara, I've hung out with this guy for 24 hours and I've got 2 new ideas for my business that I want to implement. I've got an idea for another business that I just know is going to explode. I just want to say thank you for the way you live. You make room for people and the way you refresh others, because I'm refreshed. I'm excited. I'm dreaming bigger just from hanging out with you. And thanks for just making yourself so available to pour into other people.
Wow. Well, thank you. A couple of comments I'd like to say. One of those is, you talk about, making time. My experience is that only busy people have time for anything. If you want to find somebody to get something done, you find a busy person and they'll get it done. People who aren't busy don't have time for anything.
Wow.
So I find that you've always got time for the things that you want to take time for. And secondly, you ask why God would trust me, and I will tell you, I don't know, because I'm not so sure I'm all that trustworthy. Okay, so I will just straight up honesty. But the thing He's taught me early on, and it stayed with me, is to have a giving heart And he's taught me that. I was the stingiest person on the face of the earth. So because when you
You
start
were.
when you start with nothing, it's pretty hard to give it away.
Yeah.
Okay. He's taught me over time, slow lessons to big lessons about why that's important. I've got a very forgiving spirit. Unusual because it's not that I forgive, it's that I forget. People who offend me or do something to me, that memory disappears. I don't know if it's a gift or a curse, but I do not know the people who offend me. I don't remember. It's a very short deal. So it's not like I have to work on forgiving them. I don't remember that they've offended me.
You just don't have a box to keep that in.
I don't have a box. So he's taught me to have a giving spirit. He's taught me to have a forgetful or forgiving spirit. And then I'm grateful for everything. I mean, I'm grateful for every breath. I'm grateful for everything he's done for me. And I'm more grateful probably for everything he hasn't done for me, because some of those would have been disastrous to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think grateful heart, forgiving spirit, learn to be able to use those resources in a positive way. I think he rewards. I wouldn't say he trusts. I'd say he rewards. Because I'm not that sure I'm that trustworthy. But and the other item is just to tell you, I've really enjoyed this. It's been fun. It's been great to get to know you and to spend some time with you. I feel like it's a real privilege for me.
Well, it's been
So
great.
Thank you.
I want one more question. You mentor a lot of people. Was there anyone who was really more than stands out as someone who is a mentor to you, where you've gone to for when you're stuck, when you're stumped?
I don't have that person, but I've had a lot of people. It seems like if I'm stumped on something, I can ask the person that I think is most directly affected with that. If it's spiritual, it's a spiritual person. If it's a business, it's a business person. If it's personal, it's a personal person. But I don't have that mentor or that person. But I've had a lot of people who have helped along the way.
Okay, one more question.
Just one more.
Maybe, or two. I get really excited about meeting people like you. Is there anyone that you've ever gone to meet? Because I know you've met presidents, you've met some pretty big people along your journey. Was there anyone that you ever met where you were walking into the room and your hands were sweaty and you were like, okay, this is a really big deal?
I would say that's happened a lot of times.
A lot of times.
A lot of times. I am in awe of a lot of people and what they do and how they do it. And, it's not normally their position, it's who they are.
Right.
I've some people who have been at the lowest positions are some of the most impressive people. And I think it's what they carry in them that makes me stop and go, whoa,
Wow.
It's not who they pretend to be.
Mm-hmm. It's not the title.
No.
Wow.
No, not too impressed there.
Well, Dyke Rogers, I am planning a gathering, and I'll close with this, June 25th to 27th, called the Dependently Wealthy Business Leaders Gathering, and I found out that you are going to be there.
My wife and I are both coming. We're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great event.
I'm so excited. When I heard you were coming, I was just over the moon, and it actually got my little wheels spinning about maybe even creating an opportunity for some people who might just get to sit in a room and just connect with you and pick your brain about business. And looking forward to getting to know you better in the future.
Looking forward to it.
Anybody who's interested in being part of being at the Dependently Wealthy Business Leaders Gathering, you can go to the website, dependentlywealthy.com. And if you're a business leader, you can click the button that says request an invite. It is totally free because we've had some very generous sponsors who have helped us pay for this thing. And so if you're a business leader, register right away before it's full. We got room for 2,300 people. This is going to be gorgeous. I got the most beautiful ballroom in all of Alberta, BMO Center, Calgary, right at the Stampede Ground. We're going to have 2,300 business leaders at round tables, and it is going to be heavenly. We got some amazing speakers. We're going to have great worship, and it's going to be a good time. I'm so glad you're coming.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Dyke.
Thank you.